Here we go.
G'day fans and welcome to another exciting episode of Rip It Off the Car, the show talking about collectibles and collecting and all things in between. I think one of the rarest collectibles I have ever seen in my entire life, having to be sitting right next to me in the other side of the suburb, as it were. Mr. Aaron, how you going, old son?
I'm going good, mate. Busy. So how busy am I? We had a Doctor Who delivery today and I didn't have time to even open it. How busy am I? I didn't get to post links for this show on the on my friends' pages and on the shop page. It has been crazy. How about you, mate?
Just plodding along as per the usual. So it's very funny because last week I think we had storms and hot weather and all the rest of it. Now it's all raining again and summer and it's just crazy stuff going on. So I don't really know what's happening in the big wide world. It's just total madness.
You would think it was
leading up to Christmas and all. Leading up to Christmas and everything is all very exciting. Sorry, what was that?
You would think it was global warming, except that's just Melbourne.
Yeah, exactly right. I like this one from Colin. Yeah, we're back. It's another Wednesday night of madness. Well, that's pretty much it really is the house of fun when you start thinking about madness, isn't it? So, yes, very, very, very cool. It's very, very funny. We actually have to offer an apology tonight, believe it or not. We just found out, I think a week ago, good old Mr. Ange popped into the store. And we're going to put him into the riot of the week. I completely forgot to do it. So, Ange, you've just been dudded, old son. So we'll have to slip you in next week, if you know what I mean. So, what do you reckon, Mr. Aaron?
A rollover rioter.
A rollover rioter. Now, don't roll over Beethoven like the Beatles once did. They're going to roll over the rioter. So you watch Angel bugger off now and say, "Nah, I'm quite annoyed." But I tell you, someone who did come into the store, and he came in for a very, very good reason. Apparently, you got some deliveries of some boxes. Isn't that right, Mr. Aaron? So who did you have coming along to check out how many boxes you had?
We had Dicko, who's a regular viewer. I'm not sure if he's here tonight, but look, we got a delivery today. I didn't have time to open it, but we measured it. It's about 1.5 dicks tall.
Mate, there's always room to add the extra dick at the top.
It's quite deceptive. It's not as big as It's not as big as it looks because that's actually quite a small dick standing there.
Oh, geez. Anyway, so look, once again, it's like only 2 minutes in and already got the filthy dialogue and stuff going on. But now apparently Dicko is more than happy to stand up alongside the boxes. Now apparently they're all the boxes that are just chock full of never-ending Doctor Who stuff. Is that right?
They are. So this is the stuff I've been rambling on all year about, and it's finally turned up. And it turns up late in the afternoon, and I was there by myself today, and it was really packed the whole day, so I couldn't even open them. So tomorrow is going to be my Christmas come early.
And if you're wondering why Dicko's wearing the mask, it's because he was going to do the Aaron and just start slobbering all over the boxes. Because oh my God, it's Doctor Who stuff. How good is that? So he had to control himself, and that's the way we did it. Is that right? Had to muzzle the beast.
Yes. So it's one of those things. Dicko always comes in and says hi, and I have to say thank you for being such a good sport of me, always teasing him as well.
And we're not teasing him, we're showing him love. What can I say? So
Exactly.
there you go. And for what it's worth, Dicko, as soon as Aaron took those pictures, he said, "Oh, mate, we can make all these grouse dick jokes." So that's the reason why I could put it into the show. So, oh, my goodness. Oh, yes, Greg's happy. Doctor Who stuff. Yay. Yes, it's going to be wall-to-wall nerdy madness in the store, that's for sure. So, do you actually know what's in the boxes?
I do. A lot of it was pre-orders for everyone who's saying, "Yay!" It's 5 Doctors sets with Cyberman, and it's the first Doctor and the TARDIS. And
yeah, all right. I'm sick of hearing all the Doctor Who shit. It's giving me the
no Jodie Whittaker.
Oh my goodness grace! There we go. Yes. Good old, Gavin's back. He's back. He'd bring on the Jedi. See, he's already sick of the Doctor Who stuff already, but you're just going to have to be, do the Yoda, mate. Bit of patience, mate. Patience. So, yes, very, very cool. But we've got a few things to cover off tonight, and the show will have more Jedi stuff than usual because we had to carry over from last week. So we did actually run over time, or going to run over time last week, which we don't have to worry about tonight. So before we get things started, though, we got to kick it off with a bit of the old treasure in the suburbs. Now, this one's actually quite a good one because one of the things that we've promoted on this show regarding treasure in the suburbs is it's not always about the quantity of how people collect things, how much they've got, whether you've got 5,000 houses worth of bits and pieces or whether you've just got a bookshelf full of stuff. And as it turned out, the treasure in the suburbs tonight is actually from the Vile himself. Now, I've deliberately picked this picture for a reason, and I'll show a larger version of it in a moment, because this was from 2013 when Return of the Jedi, which is the theme for the night, turned 30 years old. And the Vile, who's a fantastic artist, actually got this crushed velvet cloak and painted the Return of the Jedi poster on it. So he actually painted it. You can't get a print of that. It's a one-off. He made it himself. And it was absolutely fantastic. And this was a professionally taken photograph from that event. And although you can't tell it, he's got a Return of the Jedi hat, and he produced his own Return of the Jedi tie. But I put this in because the Vile is a huge fan of the colors red and black, because he's an Essendon supporter. And as you can look at that, you'd swear that was actually a printed picture. What do you reckon, Mr. Aaron? It's grouse, isn't it?
That's pretty amazing. When you showed it to me, I thought it was something that must have been, professionally produced and screen printed. But for him to have done that himself, well done.
Yeah, totally agree. So, and of course, the funny thing is, because it's actually from the Revenge of the Jedi artwork, the reason why he loves the red and black is as I said, is because he's an Essendon supporter. But one of the things he's a huge fan of course, is Darth Maul from the Phantom Menace. And this is the only photo he sent through. So, and this is, I really like this, because I thought, Darth Maul had a huge following back in 1999 when the Phantom Menace came out. The Vile, I know, works on a very limited budget, but you're still able to pick up a few things along the way, put them on display here. And I thought, yeah, good on you. See, once again, it doesn't matter how many bedrooms you've got, just one shelf of stuff. And I reckon that's absolutely fantastic. What do you think?
Yeah, Darth Maul is quite a striking character. I know when the first time I saw a picture of him, it was the cover of Star Wars Insider. And I thought, up until that came out, they're never going to rival Darth Vader. And then Darth Maul came along, and the imagery for him kind of gave Vader a run for his money, at least with the design and his look. But it always is impressive, because I think red and black is quite striking. It's interesting we've used this as the treasure in the suburbs, because the Vile has so many fans and been asking to see more and more of his house. I wasn't sure if we would put this in the Vile Villa during the Vile Vault later in the show. But by doing this, he's expanded. He's like what Lego likes to do, get into different sections of the toy shop to have a bigger product. The Vile is spreading into different sections of the show to slowly take over.
Yeah, totally agree. I thought this was so funny from James. Yeah, great art, but the wrong team. He actually did go to an Essendon football match dressed as Darth Maul because of the red and black, and he kind of got away with it. So I wouldn't have done that in a million years, but he didn't. Good on him too, back in 1999. So, yeah, I loved it. I thought it was great. It's just one photograph, nice and simple. For people who can't buy a lot of things, it's still all about the passion, which is what the main thing is, which
Dags,
is very, very good. What
do you think is worse, going to the football dressed as Darth Maul or going to a Star Wars meeting as an Essendon supporter?
Oh, that is a good question. These days you can do it. Once upon a time, because football in any iteration really wasn't a part of the fan scene at all. And there used to be a sort of a following called the AFL, which was the anti-football league. Now it's a bit more commonplace. But back then, back in my day, yeah, people in football and fans, even though they both start with F, didn't actually match up very well at all. But yeah, he did actually. The fact he did the Darth Maul of the footy, I thought, yeah, good on your son. But there you go.
Do you know what that guarantees a big fat close-up as they go to the break in between one of the goals, doesn't it?
Totally agree. So you can actually say, yes, the Vile did actually once violate the footy. So as one does. And speaking of violating things, we need to move on, which is very, very cool. Yeah, is this? So there we go. We've got a couple of little doodads for this evening, and it's all very good, very, very exciting. And I think we're kicking off with this is a bit of the old, not Robin Hood, but this guy.
Hawkeye. So I think these are really interesting because I think we've cut it off the bottom of the picture, but it has a disclaimer on them saying digital images may not look like the final product. Now, I've seen prototypes before where they say this is a prototype, it might not look like the final product, but these are actual digital images, so they're not even solid hard copy prototypes. Nevertheless, this is what's coming out for Hawkeye on Disney Plus. And I thought we'd show them because it's very topical and popular and being talked about at the moment. Have you been watching Hawkeye, Dags?
Yes, I have. So I think there's only 3 episodes so far. Look, I enjoyed it. It's a little bit saccharine for my liking, but there are aspects about it that I thought worked quite well. The fact that he's aging now and he's got hearing problems and all the rest of it. And it's good. It's entertaining. I think it's a bit of fluff. I think when it's finished and it's come and gone, it won't be remembered as being, at least so far, as the best of all the series that the MCU has produced. But it's certainly enjoyable.
I think it's kind of a good lead into Boba Fett, isn't it? So we get six weeks of Hawkeye as the sort of lead in, and then Boba Fett comes out at the end of the year on the 29th. So I've been watching it. I think it's been good. It's not been, like you said, I don't think it's been the best of the MCU Disney Plus movies, but it hasn't been the worst either. So it's good to watch. So the toys are coming out already, and they've just announced the 2 figures to begin with, and they're the 2 main characters. So pretty nice.
Yeah, I think if they had done a bit more adult with Hawkeye, it might have been more interesting, but you probably would have lost some of the audience as well. But anyway, good on them for doing it, and it's all very good. And I must admit, there was actually a really, really funny moment in the show. I forgot the name of the girl he's with, and she sees him on the Hollywood Boulevard and goes, "There you are, right there." And he goes, "No, that's Katniss Everdeen, because they both shoot arrows." I reckon that was from the Hunger Games. I thought that was a very nice little gag, actually. So very cool.
The other cool little gag is when she drew his outfit, and it was the 60s comic book outfit as well. So there are a lot of little nods for fans, I think.
And of course, they have the whole thing of the stage play. Was it the Steve Rogers, the musical? And of course, down the track, there probably will be a Master Universe, Jesus Christ, MCU musical thing of some sort, because they do a musical of just about everything these days. So that could actually end up becoming reality. What do you reckon?
I am sure they will, actually, and Disney are the masters of doing that too, because they've done The Lion King and Frozen and Beauty and the Beast. Why wouldn't they do Marvel, one of the most popular brands in the world at the moment?
Yep, totally agree. And don't worry about it, Mr. Phil. There are definitely no spoilers, because that's just part of it. It's not even part of the story. It's just something they chucked in, which I thought was actually kind of cool, which is very, very groovy. Anyway, so from the old exactly right, Ange, about how he got deaf. It makes a complete amount of sense when you see it in the show. You go, oh yeah, because it's good to show he's just a normal dude after all that. So from good old Hawkeye, we go to something completely left field. So left field, I've got no friggin' idea what it is.
So this is the Krampus. I like horror. Dags isn't as big into horror as I am. Krampus is one of those Christmas horrors that's sort of at the same level as Gremlins, where it's a bit scary for kids. It's a lot of fun. They use a lot of practical effects. Krampus, the backstory is, of course, he is Santa's brother who comes and gets the naughty children. And it is based on, I think, again, old Germanic legend. This is a really good representation of the Krampus from the movie The Krampus, that looks like a giant mutant goat with his chains, and he comes and stuffs kids into his big sack and takes them away, kind of thing. So this is kind of one of those things, if you're not big on the traditional imagery of Christmas, there's the alternate stuff, and this is one of the cool things you could have on your channel to have on your shelf to scare the kiddies.
So Marcus said channeling an inner Gene Simmons. I was actually thinking channeling an inner Jar Jar Binks, because they've got the whole tongue thing going on. But yes, I like that Krampus.
When I first saw it,
been so naughty. Huh?
Sorry, it flicked up quick, and I thought it was Black Phillip from the Witch, until I started looking at the pictures a bit more. So yeah, this is out for Christmas, the Krampus, and of course, if you're want to give something to your naughty kids, instead of like the latest PlayStation or Nintendo, there you go, a Krampus figure, and say good luck next year.
Either that, or you eat some of Aaron's cooking, and then you really do get a Krampus. I love us. I like this from Gavin. We had a Krampus with us on Saturday. That's good, because I think Gavin had a bit of a costume meetup group with his group in Sydney. That's bad English, but you know what I'm trying to say. Very, very cool. And the Vile is actually joined us tonight. So we actually showed some of your stuff earlier, Mr. Vile. So I don't know if you saw it or not, but there you go. But very, very, very good. All right. So if Krampus isn't cutting your mustard, then just one thing that you do need in your life is yet another effing Monopoly set.
Well, Monopoly is one of those gifts that keeps on giving. You could say, I'm just going to collect one thing, Monopolies, and that's like saying I'm just going to collect one Boba Fett like Focus or something. They go on forever and ever and ever. There's every state in America has been made into a Monopoly game. But we're looking at Star Wars for our last bit of news. So they're releasing a new Mandalorian Monopoly.
Right.
These are so a Boba Fett Mandalorian themed Monopoly, and I know a lot of people like playing Monopoly. So if it's always one of those things, everybody's got a Monopoly set at home, and if you're going to have a cool one, that's a pretty cool one. I've got so many different Monopoly sets, I probably will pass. So.
Yeah, I like it. People say, yeah, it's a really, really cool one, but they never play it. And I didn't realize it, because the image was the same, that the next pictures are something completely different. So, but yeah, it's just what the world needs. And of course, when they have season 4 of it's the Boba. It's the Mandalorian or is it the Boba Fett set? Which one is it?
I think it's the Boba Fett set, but I think if you look, it's the new version of Boba Fett with sort of the brown.
I get that. Yeah. So what they'll do is they'll do a season 1 of Monopoly, then I'll do a season 2 and a season 3 and all this sort of bizzo. But they're great to have, but once again, buy it, put it in the shelf, forget about it until the next set comes out. And So I got it confused. I thought these images were part of the Monopoly set because of the TV set image, but this is something completely different, isn't it?
Yeah, so these are the next wave coming out of the Star Wars Classic series, and they're interesting because they're not single figures. They're doing little multi-packs, so you get either a figure and a little creature or a figure and another accessory that comes with it. So you've got, I think, the flame trooper there with Grogu deflecting the flames, and then you've got, I think, a Wookiee and a clone there. So these are always popular. The classic stuff is definitely the hottest stuff out of the newly produced Star Wars, that and the Black Series. So mentioning the Black Series stuff, we've also got
more effing Boba Fett figures.
Now this is really interesting because I still have to say, when I see the new version of Boba Fett, it jars with me. I've still got the original sort of 80s version in my head, and it's going to take more than just his appearance in The Mandalorian to change that. So this is, I've got to say, it's a fantastic looking figure. It's got a removable helmet for the scale. The articulation and the likeness is really good. But I still look at that and go, that's not Boba Fett. Boba Fett doesn't have slacks like that and boots like that. But obviously, I'm an old gatekeeping fart who likes the old stuff, and we have to realize some of these things do change. So there is a whole generation of kids that are going to be wanting this for Christmas for sure.
So the question will be whether you get classic fans, people who are fans of the character for decades, go, nah, not working for me. I'm just going to stick with the original movie, the original trilogy version. That's it. The new shit, even though it's Tamira Morrison and all that sort of business, it's not working for him. Because you're right, it's jarring. Suddenly they've brought a character back who had all this mystery about him, and then of course once they introduce him in the prequels, you go, okay, fine, he's a little kid, but I'm sure that you can't imagine every Boba Fett fan in the world going, yep, yay team, this is the greatest thing in the universe. Because you're right, it's now, it's like doing a Star Trek where it's now moving into a completely different direction, and for some people they're going to be going, you know what, that's not working for me. But I agree with you, it has to evolve. So whatever.
I think one of those things is we have seen the original movies millions of times, and the new version of Boba Fett has been on screen more time than the original Boba Fett has, but because we've seen it so many times, it's just burnt into the memory like that. And it's going to take us a while, maybe a season, before we're going, yep, this is just the same character at a different stage in his life. And that's maybe a good thing because, if everything was stuck, 30, 40 years ago, we wouldn't have any new Star Wars. We wouldn't have new fans. There wouldn't be new stories. But I think Disney have proved, at least with The Mandalorian, that they're going in the right direction.
Yeah, the only issue is, and I'm just going to do this very quickly with the Boba Fett thing, they have the good chance now that they're bringing him back to completely screw it up. And people go, mate, that's complete tripe. It could, there's always that risk. And if you don't satisfy the fans, then you've got yourself in a bit of strife. But anyway, not to worry, we will see in a couple of weeks' time. But of course, going along with good old Boba Fett is his companion, if you will, Fennec Shand.
Yeah, so this is the other one that's coming out in the same wave. And again, it's got lots of articulation, really good likeness. It's got removable helmet and the weapons that come with it as well. The Black Series stuff, I definitely have to say, has got a lot better over the 10 years it's been around than when it first came out. I do remember the first couple of waves of Black Series just looked like the regular figures upscaled with no extra detail and not much extra articulation, where now they look more like the 12-inch high-end dolls scaled down. So you've got like a really good collectible, and you've got a really good balance with these ones that are coming out at the moment. I have to say, when you look at that figure, you don't think that that's a 10-inch small figure. It does look like it could be bigger and more detailed, even with the string of hair coming down and things like that. What do you think of that one, Dags?
Yeah, I like it actually. And I thought it was very, very funny because wouldn't it be ironic? You got the Book of Boba Fett, so the character is named after the show. And wouldn't it be funny if people say, you know what? He's crap. She's grouse. Fennec Shand is just like the breakout character of the entire Star Wars universe. Kick Fett out of it. It's like in Mandalorian, Grogu was far popular than Din Djarin. Give Din Djarin the How's Your Father. Let's have a series just focused on Grogu. Wouldn't it be ironic if that was the case? People just watch the show because of her. Because it does
absolutely
look great.
could happen. Just depends how it goes. There's not much longer to wait till we see what we all think about that.
Yeah, exactly right. I like this on the Vile. The Vile's asked me, does that make me a key master of fart? Oh, yeah. When I fart old. I can assure you with that. So don't you worry about that, kids. So there you go. So this is all very, very groovy. So that's the Fennec Chan, the Boba Fett, yada, yada, yada. And you've got your Krampus bloody thing coming, and more effing Monopoly sets, as you said. But even worse than that is this.
Useless Pop of the Week!
What do we got, old son?
Well, this one is an interesting one because for anyone who wanted this pop, it's a fine, representation of what the character is. But it's one of those things I do wonder if as many people are in on the joke as Funko think that would be wanting this pop. To me, it looks like Yoda on ice after a couple of years of a downward spiral. So let's reveal it.
He's been on the wacky tobacco. Look at
that. So this is the Cheddar Goblin, which is from a Nicolas Cage movie called Mandy. And this is just an advert for a breakfast cereal that's on in the background. And the mascot for that breakfast cereal is the Cheddar Goblin, which basically appears and throws up cheese all over the kids and all over their breakfast and all over the table. And it's like in the background of a movie that is mentioned a bit, and they obviously filmed it, but it is now worthy of a figure. And what they've done, all the Yodas that haven't sold, they've shipped them back. They've put them in a microwave for 30 seconds. They've put them back in the box and shipped them back out again.
I love it. I was going to say, because when you said it's like a cheddar goblin, and I think, is there a cheese reference? And clearly there is. And you're thinking, where does he come from? When you turn around the back, he's just got, like someone just shot him full of holes, and you go, he's obviously from Switzerland. Oh,
yeah,
God.
Yoda, Demon Yoda. I totally agree with that. When I saw it, because I couldn't read originally what it was, I just saw the image of it, and I was like, is it something weird out of Adventure Time? Is it like there's an episode of Simpsons where they're at the School of Magic and they conjure up an abomination and it's like, just kill me as it's throwing up in pain? But no, it's from this obscure sort of surrealistic horror Nicolas Cage movie, which goes again to prove that Funko will release any old crap.
It's very funny because it does really look like a Yoda head. And I thought maybe they use that as the basis. But the fact that it had Mandy, now, I'm sorry, the picture's a bit grainy. It was the best we could get, as Mandy up there. And of course, I actually know a lady called Mandy. And I thought, imagine giving that to her. So look at this, they named a pop after you. It's not the most flattering thing of all time, is it? So
can you imagine the production line in China where all these underpaid workers have just painted their Yodas, and the foreman comes in, pulls the switch, and the conveyor belt goes the other way, and he's like, we're repainting them into the Cheddar Goblin, and they have to repaint them back the other way. So that is our useless pop of the week. If anyone loves that pop, I'm sorry. I thought it was a pretty pathetic one to release.
Yeah, now I know Jeffro is at the movies tonight watching Dune, and I wonder if he watches this, he's going to go, oh, that's suddenly got this tingling in my internal organ saying, I've got to get me a Cheddar Goblin. So
got to get the Cheddar Goblin. I've got to get the Cheddar Goblin pop, and I feel like cheese.
Yeah, I totally agree. And you wouldn't believe who's actually joined us tonight. Is this person? Yes, good old Spankin is actually with us. So I like this one. The pop company, we've actually discussed this before, that the pop company is running out of ideas. Yeah, I think.
You are so sadly so far off the ball with that comment, because wait till you see our useless pop of the year on our Christmas episode.
Yeah, that's a classic one. Now, for hardcore fans, probably won't get this gag. Do you get this gag? The Gimmer overdose.
His Gimmer stick. So he's been playing with his Gimmer stick too much.
You're close. It is a Gimmer stick, but he chews the top of it. So there you go. As to why, I don't know. So yes, very, very cool. Yeah, you're right, Colin. He's high on twisties. Yeah, exactly right. Well, life's pretty straight with Adam. Speaking of things that are actually really, really straight or twisted, depending on your perspective, it's a bit of this.
It's Greg King's Christmas crackers, geeky gifts to stuff your stocking. So this is a bit of a departure from Greg King, because usually we're looking at cheaper things. Now I'm going to throw you a curveball at the end of this segment, Dags, because something's happened that you don't know. But we'll get through. We'll get through Greg King's Christmas crackers first. Now, this is a bit different because Greg King is actually looking at nerdy stocking stuffers that are around at the moment and highlighting some of the stuff that if you have a significant other who you're kind of wondering what you could get for Christmas, where can you get a deal and what kind of thing would they want? So you've got your Grogu is always going to be popular. I would say that's a very family-friendly gift for anyone who's into Star Wars because it's pretty much loved by everyone. You can see there we've got a Grogu remote, animatronic figure, and on the other side the Grogu Chia pet, which is an interesting concept. We've got your Red Dwarf DVDs and your Mandalorian art books, your geeky T-shirts, and your Alien figures. And as I've put down the bottom, I think you'll appreciate this, Dags. GK, you've done it again.
Exactly right. I saw that, and even got the right yellow and everything. It was very, very cool. So yes, very, very cool.
So first, I thought we're looking at sort of low, medium, and high end stuff for different nerds in your family. And what I thought was pretty cool here, Greg has sent us in. I thought it was a weird mitten or something, but it's actually a Mr. Spock oven mitt. So you can live long and prosper as you get stuff out of the oven without burning your hands. And so if you've got a bit of a Star Trek fan, I'm sure Colin would love this. He's still got both his arms, so he can still use it. And we've also got what I thought is really cool, a trivia game. Yes?
See, with the oven mitt, right?
Yeah.
You just cook complete shit, right? You pull it out of the oven and someone looks at it because you got that's looking like this. You pull the oven mitt out with the thing and people go, what the friggin' hell have you just cooked? And you go, you know what? It's an infinite diversity in infinite combinations. It could be anything. Good on you, Mr. Collins. Still laughing at the jokes. Absolutely love it. Yeah, anyway, sorry. We'll get back into it. Yep.
No problem. There's a trivia game as well. And it comes in this really amazing shuttlecraft, which I think is the coolest thing about it, because you know, if you're a Star Trek fan, you usually can sit there and make up your own trivia without like having the cards. But when it comes with a replica Star Trek shuttle, I think it's one of those worthy things that's a collectible and something you can use at a club meeting. Then we go to the higher end, and that is actually a communicator Bluetooth. So you can use that as your phone. Like in Star Trek, you can have the coolest phone where everyone's got their iPhone walking around with the screen and everything. You can have a retro 60s communicator phone. What do you think of that, Dags?
Yeah, it's working for me. Get the old flip. In fact, who remembers when you actually had the flip top when they were like the Motorola's when they actually happened, and you thought, oh, this is the closest thing to Star Trek as we've got. Yet, ironically, the communicators in Star Trek, the real series, are so out of date with today's technology that
Yes.
now they're way too big and bulky and all the rest of it. And it's supposed to be like 300 years or 400 years in the future. So,
do you remember? Do you remember when mobile phones started to get big, Star Trek fans started to go, oh, Star Trek predicted this 20 years ago. Now, if they say that, people would say, so what? You know, we've got better phones now, you know? So,
yeah, exactly right. I like this one from good old Mr. Greg King. Yeah, if you can't do the Vulcan greeting, you just hold that up instead. And people go, oh, you're just so cool. So there you go. Did you ever see, just on a slight aside, I think it was the movie Fanboys. Did you ever see that with William Shatner?
Yeah.
You remember the sequence and they're coming up to the caravan? I think it's a caravan, and he's inside the caravan with a girl or a woman, and they got the guys outside, and he says, no, you got to open them wider, you know, spread them further, and all the rest of it. Yeah, it sounds really suggestive. And they open the door, and he's trying to teach her how to do the Vulcan salute.
I thought you were going to say that they open the door and he's in bed with Dicko, but there you go.
Oh, jeez. See, I was being clean. You just brought it back to being dirty again. Oh, I know where your mind's been. Yeah, so there you go. Now, I like this from Spankin. He's saying to Tash, that's his other half, get off the phone and watch the Christmas stuff. So he wants to know what to buy, what's Tash to buy for him. So there you go. Anyway, we move on.
I just have to say something, Dags. If you can't do the Vulcan salute, do you know what you can't do?
What?
You can't turn the machine on Mars.
Yeah, it's true. Yeah, start the reactor. I'll tell you a funny story. I once went to a slumber party. A dude actually had a little teddy bear sticking out of his chest, and he just said, Quaid, start the reactor. And I tell you what, I lost my shit. It was one of the funniest things I've ever seen. It was like, get to Mars. He's got his Quado thing going down, Pat. Oh, it was awesome. Anyway, there you go. And Natasha and the little dude is obviously now watching the show for some Christmas ideas for spanking. There you go. And good old Dicko is still laughing at our jokes at your expense. I love it. Very, very cool. We move on. Otherwise, get into it.
Okay. So if you've got a younger person or someone who's young at heart in the house, Nintendo is always a good way to go. And Greg King has sent us in some interesting Nintendo ideas for Christmas, and I think they're pretty cool. First, they're reissuing. Well, they're not reissuing it. It's a new one, but there's a new Game & Watch coming out. Now, Game & Watches were big in the 80s, and they kind of went away, and they're very collectible now. But for the last 2 years, Nintendo has picked one of their top games and reissued it in a Game & Watch, because now a Game & Watch you could just have like one screen, but with technology you can have a Game & Watch the same size, and they put the entire Legend of Zelda on it, and it's a retro version. So this works for kids, this works for adults. Does it work for you, Dags?
It does work for me, but I'll tell you what works for me even more. Dicko said he's going to get his own segment soon. And while you were talking, I was just thinking, well, Christmas is coming up. It's got to be Dicko's decorations. So you too can decorate your house with a bit of Dicko. Jesus Christ. I'm getting as bad as you. Oh, my God. Oh,
Yeah.
we're
Dicko's roundup.
Yeah, totally agree. I'm moving on.
No problem. We didn't look at the last two Nintendo things. There was Nintendo paper for the wall, and also magnets for the fridge to make your fridge look like a giant Game Boy. But we move on to Star Wars, and there's more stuff for the kitchen here. If you're a bit of an Imperial, you will love your popcorn, and you'll love it even more if it's popped in a Death Star popcorn maker. So basically, the clever thing about this is when you put it away and clean it, it's just the Death Star standing on a pedestal. But then you take the lid off the Death Star and it becomes a bowl. You fill the bottom half of the Death Star up with popcorn kernels. You push a button, and instead of blowing up Alderaan, you get fresh popcorn every time. And do you know what you can also use? You can also use your Death Star waffle maker as a bit of a theme here. So if you want Star Wars in the kitchen and you don't want like a Miss Picky tea service or something, you can go for the Death Star. The other thing that I think is pretty cool, they've brought out umbrellas, and they've done this before with lightsaber handles that light up, but this one they've brought out this year has different color LEDs in it, so you can change the color of your lightsaber depending on your mood. So if you've had a good day, you can have a green or blue Jedi Master one. If you're feeling a bit down or angry, you can change it and have a red one. And if you're feeling like Samuel Jackson, you can have a purple lightsaber umbrella, and it's all the same one.
You do realize, of course, that once you're going to open the umbrella, you don't just go, you got to go, and if it's in the wind, oh my God, you can have a whale of a time with that. And of course, what happens if you've got two people with two umbrellas trying to get into the same place at the same time and they're starting to clash? Unbelievable. With regards to the Death Star popcorn maker, do you remember when for Battlestar Galactica, they actually produced a toaster that would actually toast the image of the Cylons onto the bread? Yes. And of course, that was a reference to the new series where they actually said that the Cylons look like chrome toasters. And I thought that was an ingenious concept. I was absolutely loved it. So
they also actually called them fracking toasters.
Yes, they did too. So yes, I agree. That popcorn that's inside the Death Star popcorn maker is actually the remnants of Alderaan. So there you go. You might find sort of buried just about there somewhere is a little Bail Organa going, "Help me, help me."
It's amazing.
Anyway.
It's amazing how much stuff you can fit inside Greg's cracker. But
I love this. I like this. If you're horny, go swing and a miss. Anyway, you move on.
Okay, and what I was saying earlier, here's some of the Mandalorian, specifically the Grogu stuff that's available this year for Christmas. And again, I've had to put up that Chia Pet because that's just mind-boggling, isn't it, Dags? But you've got like the Lego mini sets which just build the figures out of Lego, and they're bigger than an ordinary minifigure like Spank and the Monkey. It's more of a sort of larger size.
Hang on,
set.
Who did you say?
He's made two appearances. And you've got the as I said, animatronic Grogu there as well, which I'm sure any kid would love, or anyone that loves the Mandalorian. And you can see Grogu is getting into the Christmas spirit, because any toy can get into the Christmas spirit if you whack a Santa hat on its head.
Yep, totally agree. Even if it's just been digitally added in. We've actually got someone from Twitch joining us. Joe Balls, good on you, Joe. I think it's Joe Balls. Yeah, it's Joe Balls, that's right. Like the Lego Batman games. We might even discuss those a bit later on. You never know. So just keep watching the show. I like this one from Mr. Greg. Cool. My cracker's bigger on the inside. Oh, my goodness. Where are we going with this? All right, let's move on.
So this is an interesting one. Greg actually wants this for Christmas himself. This is an interesting book. It's Crafting with Cat Hair. And basically... when you groom your cat, or when you have cat hair all over your jumper, you can get all that cat hair and gather it together, and then you can craft with it. It's not quite big enough to read. This is a serious book where you collect your cat's hair, and then they show you how to use that hair to craft other things. Why am I mentioning this? Because a lot of geeks and nerds like to be solitary, and I guarantee you, if you take this book and read it on the train, no one's going to sit near you.
I don't know if you can read it up there, everybody, but it says there, got fur balls. I actually saw one time on the news or whatever, some segment, a lady had a really, really fluffy dog, and she was able to get the fur off the dog and knit a jumper. And of course, when she put the jumper on and she stood next to the dog, they looked identical. It's freaking weird as.
Well,
but yes.
I was hoping when we were reviewing this one that your cat would make an appearance and sort of...
Well, hang on. I can show you too. She's asleep on the couch way over there. In fact, I'll even get a... Hang on. I got to get a bigger picture. So if you want to see if there's pussy cats, there's my cat way over there. So, yes,
there you go.
Very, very cool. Yeah, good stuff. Hang on. I'm just going to give you the full screen so I can put my camera back. So there you go. What do you reckon? Oh, look at that. It's a gigantic Aaron. Very, very cool. All right, good stuff.
So yeah, that's some of Greg's research into Christmas gifts for the year. But where can you get these gifts, Dags?
I got no idea, dude. But it's got to be here.
Yes, and of course, it's a bit hard to read again for me because it's on small screen. But who would have thought JB are touting themselves as the greatest shop in Australia to buy Christmas gifts, to buy collectibles and genre stuff. And it's really interesting because I used to get the JB Hi-Fi catalog and go through it, and it was pages and pages of DVDs and DVD sets, and buy 2 DVDs, get 1 for free. Now it's pages and pages of pop vinyl, and I was thinking, they really have changed the focus of where they're going. But so if you're after a last minute Christmas gift, JB, you've done it again, and Greg King, you've done it again.
You stuffed that one up, didn't you? You're supposed to just say JK, you've done it again. So there you go. Very, very good. Okay, kiddies, guess what? We've got this to show you.
This holiday, grow the adventure in your own galaxy with the Child Chia Pet. Just soak your chia, spread the seeds, water, and watch it grow. And there's Chewbacca Chia Pet. Groot is a Chia Pet too. Jack Skellington is also a Chia Pet. And
I'll be the plant. You are a plant.
Golden Girls Chia Pets. Get Chia Pets, the gift that grows.
I hadn't watched that before.
Now, that was just too good not to show. A Golden Girl Chia Pet collectible. Before we move on to our next segment, though, we've got a bonus at the end of this segment. I got home today.
Oh, hang on. I got to try and give you the screen. I've actually forgotten it. Hang on, give me a second. Hang on. Here we go. Go for it.
I got home today, and there was a parcel from distant Orient sitting on my doorstep. And this is what I'd wanted to do for a while, but never got round to doing it. Opening one of Greg King's cheaper things live on the show without knowing what it is. Now, it can be 3 things in this. It can be the horror mystery figure that we claimed our money back for. So that would be quite ironic if we got the money back 2 weeks ago for it. It can be a clock, or it can be the Annie locomotive Catgirl statue.
Or it could be a long drawn-out segment. Get on with it.
Okay, so we will open it live and we will see what it actually is. I have no idea.
And drum roll, please. A plain box.
It's a plain box.
Okay, you watch now. You spent half an hour trying to cut the the stuff open. You've got millions of people watching us right now. So there you go.
All 20 people will have.
Yeah, actually, you're right. 19 at the moment. So there you go. All right, here we go. And all right, and yep, here we go.
Oh dear.
Is that a good idea or a bad idea? Oh Jesus, what's that? What'd they do?
Well, there's some of it still in the packet, but it is an Alice in Wonderland clock.
That's a shitload smaller than I thought it was going to be.
So there we go. I am again surprised because I did think we were going to get absolutely nothing or something super crap that looked nothing like they were advertising, but it isn't what they advertised. If you look at Alice's eyes, she has a dead, staring Bruce the Shark look to her. The Cheshire Cat has been looks like an albino cat, hasn't been painted. And I'm going to be cleaning up foam out of my spare room now for the next 3 weeks. But Tweedledee and Tweedledum are there, hanging off the clock movements. So yeah, we did get one more thing before the year ends for Greg King's Cheaper Things. It's not horrible as our beautiful mask and the Jumanji game, but it's not perfect ever. It's either. It's lucky that Chad was interested in buying this if it turned up and looked remotely like what it was supposed to be. So
very good. Like
Chad's Christmas bonus.
Well done. I'm going to sum this up in 2 words that I got to say. Joe Balls has got it right. Yep, that was definitely a loser moment. Love it. Oh, good old Rico's happy. Yeah, score 1. So there you go. People who've never watched this segment before have no freaking idea as to what's going on. So there you go. And Rico said he can't wait to add it to his collection. So there you go. All right. So regarding absolutely crap things, let's get back into the story. So very good. You got your Alice in Wonderland clock. Yay, team. We'll see if it's working. Don't forget when it'll be on display in the store. You can get to check it out and just see how far the rabbit hole really does go. But in the interim, while we're talking about big holes, we must go here. It is the Lord Viles file.
Well, I didn't know where you were going with that one, actually, but yes, live from Lord Viles' black hole near Mustafa. Yep. Yes, we've got the Vile file, and it is a cracker this week. Lord Vile is out of lockdown. He's been touring the world again, and he's sent us a postcard. Where has he sent us a postcard from, Dags?
Mate, this dude gets around.
This is Lord Viles' postcard from Bollywood. So anyone who isn't sure what Bollywood is, Hollywood is where they make all the blockbuster American movies. Bollywood is where they make just as many blockbuster Indian movies. And the fantastic thing about Bollywood is they have some amazing posters and some amazing poster art. And this week, Lord Vile has decided to share some of that with us.
Yeah, they produce more movies in Bollywood than just about anywhere. They churn them out like thousands of them in a year. It's just absolutely insane. But of course, every movie has to have an advertising poster, and we're off and running.
So the interesting thing about the Bollywood posters and the movie industry in general in India is a lot of time it's actually cheaper for someone to come in and customize a poster and paint it. You know, everyone's a one-off. So like the art that used to be on the cover, on the front windows of video libraries, a lot of the Indian movie poster covers have a really sort of like handmade, hand-painted look. They're not as polished or as sort of, I guess, how the licensee would love them as they are in Hollywood. And often the creative minds behind the Indian posters put a lot of their own license into what they depict. So in the Jurassic Park one of my favorite scenes is the giant toilet with the guy sitting on where the T-Rex comes and licks him off with his giant tongue. And of course they've got that famous picture of Jeff Goldblum reclining shirtless in his black top. and for some reason they've decided to put Dr. Alan Grant, giving him a big hug. What you can't see, which I think is really impressive, is the pterodactyls, which weren't even in the first Jurassic Park movie, from what I remember, have got hold of Sir David Attenborough, and they're ripping him to shreds, and he's bleeding while he waves and smiles, looking like Colonel Sanders. So I think this is going to be good. And what's great about these movies, these posters, Dags? Ask me what's good about these two movie posters, Dags.
What's damn good about these movie posters, Aaron?
You can actually tell what movie they're meant to be from, because when we look at some of these posters, you really are going to go, what the? And we're going to play a little game where the Vial has highlighted a couple of images of the posters to give everyone a bit of a chance to decide what poster we're looking at before we reveal the majesty of the artwork that he's decided to share with us. So without further ado, let's move on to the first poster, or posters. So there's two posters here. One of them has a horse and they look like fish skeletons. And the other one has a crazy maniacal looking guy, another guy in the background, sort of coming out of an explosion. Did you have any ideas of what these could be, Dags? Anyone watching, you can shout out if you want. There's a bit of a delay, so we might not be able to wait to see everyone's guesses.
We'll give it a go. So before we go back, just regarding the clock, I had to put this up. So Spankin has suggested it needs a repaint like Tweedledum and Tweedledee to make it look like us two. I reckon it's just Dumb and Dumb, so simple as that. All right, let's have a look. So Ange has said Face Off. Joe has said Godfather and Face Off. Ange has said Spectre Gadget. I don't know where you got that from. You are right, Gavin. It is Nicolas Cage. Very good. And Thomas has just got a straight out no idea whatsoever. Yeah, we got Nicolas Cage. We've got that part figured out, kids. So there you go. So what are there are two movies, okay? There are two different posters here. Two different movies. What do you reckon they might be? And will you get it right? Because this is good old Bollywood. If you saw these posters in Hollywood, in India, you'd be thinking, I've got to go check these movies out. What are they? They are this.
Well, Joe was spot on. You've got Marlon Brando there with his giant pussy, and you've got the face-off plane with Nicolas Cage, kind of a very warped look, and you've got John Travolta there and a couple of really dodgy cars exploding. So Joe Penn was spot on. Obviously, he is up there. He's able to decipher the Moscow and Hungarian posters, so these are going to be pretty easy for him. But really, the level of artistic talent that goes into these posters is absolutely amazing. Shall we go on to the next couple?
Yeah, and I was really surprised they put the severed horse's head in there. And I thought, really? I mean, that's actually like a spoiler, really, when you sit and think about it. So, yes. Well, anyway, take a guess, kids. What do you reckon this is?
Well, these are amazing too. I mean, you've got Michael Jackson-looking guy there. He's 90% Michael Jackson with a little bit of sort of the Indian Bollywood influence. And then you've got two Indian-looking guys in jumpsuits with some electricity around them. So anyone want to hazard a guess into what these are? Angelo says E.T.
Hang on. I'm going to cut you off. So Rusky Babes has asked about the fish in God. The only reference would be because he sleeps with the fishes. That's all I could think of. So it's about as subtle as you can possibly get. But as for the bones, is anybody's guess. All right, Andrew said E.T. I don't know how you get E.T. from Michael Jackson, but anyway, whatever. Mark has said E.T. and Ghostbusters. Gavin has also said E.T. and Ghostbusters, so everybody seems to think Ghostbusters. That's fair enough. And where are we? Here we go. E.T. and the Flash. Oh, okay, it's different. There you go. And you are right, Mr. Rico. Bonus alien egg in the bottom left. That's a bit of a dead giveaway, isn't it? So how does Michael Jackson and an E.T. and an alien egg go together? Mate,
it must be, I know, it's Alien versus Predator.
Oh. Oh, you're a shocker. Oh, dude. So, yeah, E.T., yeah, good on you, Mr. Phil. Yeah, slipping in a good one there, E.T. and Ghostbusters. Everybody thinks that. So, Jesus, you realise that Michael is more artificial than E.T. Oh, my God. Yes. And Joe, yeah, Godfather again. Yeah, I don't think so. Well, you reckon it's a style B poster? Oh, wait, what do you reckon it is, kids? It's an absolute classic. It, of course, is... Look at that. Yes, E.T. and Ghostbusters.
E.T. and Ghostbusters. So we had a few people guess it straight away. Obviously, the artist is able to get the idea of what these movies are across. My favourite scene from E.T. is where the face hugger attached itself to one of the FBI heads and E.T. came along and zapped it off with his finger. That was a fantastic scene, wasn't it?
That was in the director's cut.
Bonus nudity in the Ghostbusters one where the librarian ghost is actually naked.
hang on, over here.
Yes.
Is that naked? Is it? Oh my god. Okay, yeah, fair enough. So there you go. Yes, very, very, very cool. Got to absolutely love it, which is good stuff. All right, all right. What's next?
Well, here's a couple of interesting ones. There looks like, I guess, some giant wild creatures, and I'm not sure who any of those actors are supposed to be. And then we've got like a skeleton breathing fire and someone with his head on fire. This will be a bit more interesting to see if anyone can get this. The Vial really has surpassed himself with the posters this week, hasn't he, Dags?
He does. It says here in the text, Lovers Video Club Toshi. Make of that what you will. So there you go. Andrew said Goonies, and then he said Romancing the Stone. Yeah, I guess so. There we go. Marcus said Ghost Rider. That's probably not a bad guess, but I don't think that's the case. Yeah. Russell said the English patient in the sequel. I don't think so. Joe said X-Files and the Goonies. Yeah, it's a bit of David Duchovny on the left-hand side, I suppose. There you go. Oh, you go. Home Alone and I Shrunk the Kids. Where'd you get that from? Unbelievable. So there you go. Natasha and the little dude has said Jumanji. I assume that to be on the left-hand side. It's bizarre, isn't it? The fact you can't work it out by looking at the imagery is really kind of cockeyed. So, yeah, I don't know. Yeah, Anaconda. Yeah, that's kind of cool. Anyway, let's find out what the answer is. See if anybody got it right. Look at that.
So it is Jumanji and Home Alone. I love the Home Alone poster where Kevin is just basically a serial killer. He is shooting people. He is burning their faces off with an iron. You've got Joe Pesci there, like dying with his head on fire. And Jumanji is just like this weird, it's a bit hard to see because it's so small, weird animals standing up on their hind legs doing weird things. None of the actors actually look like the actors they're meant to be. I think that's fantastic.
I like this bit over here. You got the iron on the dude's face. That's straight out of Walking Dead, you know. It's just like that's very charming. You see, imagine being in India thinking, "Oh, mate, I've got to go and see the movie for that scene alone." So unbelievable. Here we go. Oh, here we go.
Here's some fantastic ones. I mean, you've got the Grim Reaper decapitating someone with some fangs in the background, and then you've got, I don't know, it looks like some. I can't even describe it. You've got some weird people in costumes, a giant snake. You've got a house that looks on fire. I don't know. You've got like.
When you said weird people in costumes, I thought that'd be Oz Comic Con this weekend, won't it? So there you go. Mike Sidious has said Swamp Thing. We've got no idea. Andrew said Bill and Ted. Was it Joe said Batman and Friday? There you go. Andrew said James Bond. Oh, I don't know where you get James Bond from that. Daniel said Happy Gilmore, good old Moneybag Sullivan. I can tell you a funny story about Moneybag Sullivan. He came to my house yesterday. Not only did he eat my dinner, right? He ate my dessert, ate my banana cake, right? It was just like he would just land around the house, turned up right when dinner was being served. And I thought, mate, that's absolutely unbelievable. He said, oh, he's eating my chocolates and the whole lot. Bloody Scooby Dog, what can I say? So, and I told him the moment he posts on this show, I'm going to put him up there and call him out. So there you go. Where were we? And yeah, a lot of people said Batman for some reason. I suppose that's sort of completely understandable. Yes, very good. Oh, anyway, Scream has made an appearance. Yeah, okay. And Natasha said Scream as well. Jurassic Park. So yeah, and Moneybags is right. Moneybag Sullivan. There we go.
So, do you want to let's reveal what these ones are and see if anyone got them?
Yep. A few people did. So there you go. Batman and Happy Gilmore.
Have we got it up? I don't think we've got it up.
Yeah, I'm looking. Oh shit! Hang on. Sorry, I pressed the wrong button. There we go. Sorry, kids.
So yeah, it's one of the most bizarre interpretations of the first Batman movie I've ever seen. Do you remember the scene where the death turns up and decapitates people?
Yeah, it's Joker gone wrong, mate. He's gone along and just gone snip. Maybe that was the scene where he's cutting out all the photographs and and he's taking it literally and he's actually cutting people's heads off. That's just
and the
bizarro,
Happy Gilmore one is unbelievable because the Vial put Adam Sandler front and center and only Joe Penn got it, I think. So that is the craziest couple of pictures for mainstream movies you've got to have ever seen. I've got to say these are kind of bizarre and crazy, but I do love them. Usually on the Vile file, you kind of think, what the hell? Who would anyone like that? But these have a strange appeal to them as well.
Yeah, they all have a bit of violence in them too, which is I don't really sort of get that. I mean, yeah, the idea of having cut off heads with blood everywhere. I like this one from Gavin Golly. Exactly, I can't even pronounce that, but that looks really, really cool. Where's the get those wonderful heads? Oh, that's the quote of the night. Absolutely love it. So there you go. Very, very cool. I think we need.
So here's a couple of beauties. You've got it looks like someone getting shot in the head and their head dissolving.
Violence. I love it. Awesome.
Well, yeah, that's probably why the Vile loves these so much, because they've all got that little bit of extra violence in them. Yep. The other one there is interesting with the cat people. I'm guessing it's not going to be the cat people.
Now, when I first looked at this picture, if you look at this alien up here, and you got there's this arm. This thing here is the arm of this guy, right? Yes. So if you're not looking at it properly, you can interpret that in a slightly different way. So there you go. Andrew said Star Trek, and then he said Cats, and I was probably on the right track for that one too. You never know. Raiders and Cats. Oh yeah, exactly right. Is there a dude with looks like a spear through his head? Oh god, yeah. Back to the violence again, isn't it? So yeah, unbelievable. Very, very cool. All right, we're just going to, because we're running behind time, we're just going to move forward with it. And who guessed that?
So, yeah, there was Star Trek. A couple of people guessed that. No one guessed Frankenstein. And do you know what's amazing about that Frankenstein? You get the added vampire fangs. So you get Frankenstein and Dracula. And, of course, my favourite scene in Frankenstein is, of course, where the giant cats animate the dead corpse. I mean, I don't know where... If anyone can explain to me where that comes in Frankenstein, please, in less than 20 words on the back of an envelope, please send it in, because I have no idea where the cats in Frankenstein come from.
The Star Trek one should be called Red Shirt's Revenge, because you see this red dude here. I don't know if it's meant to be Sulu or whoever, kicking the shit out of them. There's blood pissing out everywhere and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, yeah, right. Frankenstein, yeah, exactly right. And Frankula, love it. Anyway, yes, if you happen to be in India for any particular reason, maybe you can actually check these productions out. Oh, we're still going, are we? We're going to have to cut this.
I think this is the last two for the evening. So let's see if we can get some really accurate guesses on these. You've got some. I don't know. He looks like I don't know if he's a karate guy fighting and getting his eye gouged out by a goblin. And then we've got some animated dead, but they're not Jason and the Argonauts, surely, because they've got handguns and semi-automatic machine guns and a few skulls littered around on the Kill Bill.
I don't know. I mean, Ray Harryhausen didn't exactly get around to putting machine guns and AK-47s in those skeleton hands, did he? So there you go. No. Moneybag Sullivan said the never-ending story. I don't know how you got that out of that, but you never know. Yes, very, very cool. And hopefully nobody's Googling these pictures, by the way, because that'll be cheating. So there you go. Russell said Jason and the M1s. Yeah, I love it. Fantastic. Kung Fu, Hustle in the Army of the Dead. Here we go. Joe Penn's Caravan of Courage. Where did you get that from? Ewok movie. Yeah, where'd you get it? Oh, my goodness gracious me. So... all right, we're going to have to move forward because we're running out of time. So there you go. Here we go. Yeah, Lord of the Rings and Terminator. Terminator maybe, but I don't know where you get Lord of the Rings from. We were fingering in somebody's eyes. That's supposed to be like Saruman's eye or something, is it? So there you go. Clash of the Titans and Pulp Fiction. Oh, God. Okay, and let's have a look.
So it was the never-ending story, obviously the adult cut with the hypergore, and They Live. Now, They Live is an interesting one because I do not remember anything about the skeletons in They Live. If it was even Total Recall, where they walk behind that screen and they have the X-rays, maybe you could draw the comparison there. But that is another weird, surreal picture that they've added into the middle of this this poster.
Unbelievable. So that's a bit of Bollywood action for you there, kids. And you do have to wonder about these things, don't you?
Yes, so Beetlejuice, Jurassic Park, Godfather, Face Off, E.T., Star Trek, Jumanji, Home Alone, Batman, Happy Gilmore, Ghostbusters, Neverending Story, Frankenstein, They Live, and E.T. have been well and truly violated.
Absolutely.
The vile.
Love it. All right, I'm going to ask you a quick. Sorry, what was that?
Yeah. The vile, violating movies one at a time.
Absolutely love it. Now, it's right on 9 o'clock. We're actually later than we should be. We're actually way behind time. We've got two options, and we can probably put this to the audience. We can either go through our eBay section, which has some really grouse stuff in it, but it will delay us by at least maybe 15 minutes, or we can get into the Return of the Jedi Talk Part 2. And if we do that by itself, we'll finish by 10 o'clock. But if we do the eBay thing, we'll be definitely running over until after 10. So just very, very quickly, can people out there give us what their thoughts are? Thank you. What do you reckon there, Mr. Aaron?
I reckon just because more people hang around for the eBay stuff, we'll do the eBay and see how it goes. But if anyone wants to skip the eBay, speak now or forever snipe your bid.
Yeah, I think we're got the general consensus is to go with it because it was actually a really good one tonight. So for that, without any further ado, let's go.
And we're mainly...
All right, so there we go, kids. So what are we discussing tonight, Mr. Aaron?
Well, it's a Star Wars themed night, and we've tried to look at classic Star Wars stuff, either genuine vintage classic stuff or maybe a couple of the new classic items, but there's some big items that should go for some big prices. So let's get through this and see how many people can get close and how many people are going to be way off the mark.
So for people, and there's a few people joining us at the moment, those who don't know what you need to do, we're going to show you some eBay items that have sold. All you need to do is just put in your guess as to how much you think they sold for, okay? Now, don't Google it, don't cheat it. And just have a bit of fun. You don't win anything except bragging rights. And let's see how we go.
So this is an amazing auction because usually if you have all of these figures, you would sell them separately. Each one of these figures is a real genuine figure complete with their original weapons. They're the power of the Force, the last 17 figures that were produced. So you've got probably the rarest and most desirable figures there. You've got your Yak Face and R2-D2 with pop-up lightsaber. They're all in great conditions. Most of them have the collector coins that came with them. Each one of those figures can go for a pretty penny just by itself, but putting them in an auction together, will you get a deal by doing a bulk lot? Are they still going to go for a small fortune? What do you think, Dags?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, the pop-up lightsaber is the umbrella we saw earlier, which is kind of groovy. So there you go. I like this one. Andrew said 50 cents. Even I think it's probably a bit optimistic. Mr. Phil has slipped one in there with 350. Mr. Mike City is looking at almost $5.5 grand or $5.25 grand. Sorry, hang on. Colin has said 4,500. Rusky Babes there in sixpence. Yeah, good on you. And she said $1 million. Yeah, I'll accept that one. Moneybags, sorry, Mr. Spankin has said 3,500. Gavin's at 748. Thomas at 1,400. Jimmy, good to see Jimmy joining the show. $20,000. Holy guacamole. Violating these Return of the Jedi figures is the violet for $940. Moneybags Sullivan, who came to my house the other night and ate all my food. The poor I couldn't even have lunch the next day because he ate it all. Is at $1,250. What do other people think these went for? Vintage Power of the Force. Just that alone used to make people shudder with anticipation as to what they're worth. Yak Face, R2-D2, pop-up lightsabers, all very exciting stuff. What do you reckon they all went for? Absolutely magnificent. So we'll have to just move on. So the price for this, it went for, the condition is new. Make of that what you will. And look at this. Greg said $2 each and a toy box of the grass. Oh, geez, you can tell who's the Doctor Who figure in this particular story. It is, or the fan has to be, Mr. Greg King, and of course the price went for $5.5 grand.
I know that is even if you bought, usually if you sell stuff individually, it goes for more, but that still went for a lot. There was a lot of interest. There was like over 20 bids. I think there's 25 bids there, and Mike Sidious has swooped in and got those ones with about $200 to spare.
And for those who are interested, so Moneybag Sullivan telling me to hurry up because there's a 6-second delay between what we say and by the time we get your messages. That's the reason why we sort of drag this out a little bit. Gives people a chance to sort of put their bids in at the last minute. Don't want to go too fast, eh? So there you go. All right, next item is...
Now, this is another fantastic ship from Return of the Jedi. This is a vintage Imperial shuttle. These are very hard to get boxed because boxes that size usually get crushed pretty easily in storage, and they're very hard to get complete in good condition. This one is amazing. It is sealed, mint in box, never played with. If you opened that, a gush of 80s air would come out, much like when they raised the keystone on the Well of the Souls from Raiders of the Lost Ark.
I just realized, sorry, I'm going to retract what I said. I realized what he said, get over it. I thought he was telling me to hurry up. He's talking about when he went there with dinner the other night. Anyway, so yes, all right, I'm going to move on. I've just made a complete meal of all that. So what do we reckon it's worth? Ange just hasn't helped me at all. So I'm going to make up the best price you can think of for that. All right, so Mr. Phil has said $1,250. Gavin has said $10,000. Collins $5,000. Ange is at $3,000. Spankin is at $1,200. Mr. Vile wanting the shuttle at 7,000. Moneybag Sullivan has said 6.5. Jimmy has said 5,000. No one's going cheap on this one too. And you can actually, ironically, it's not the Emperor shuttle because the Emperor shuttle has a grey nose. That's how you could tell the difference between that and the Tidarium for those who did not know.
So the Emperor shuttle has a grey nose and all of his followers have brown noses.
Exactly. Good on you. Where were we? I think, Thomas at what?
I've got another one. It's an older style toy, but it checks out.
Yeah, good on you. That's a very in joke for those who don't know that one. 3,200 from Thomas. Connie, good to see Connie joining the show. Is at 6.5 roughly. Grant is at 2.5. And Rico, a very unoptimistic $800. I don't think that's going to be the case, but you never know. So there you go. Anyway, so Star Wars Vintage Return of the Jedi, only one bid. It's the Imperial shuttle still mint in the box, the whole bit. That has got to be worth a few bucks. Mr. Mike is coming with 3,500. So there you go. What do you reckon it went for, kids? It went for a whopping $3,500. Oh, wow. Look at that. The last bit in.
Right on. So, yeah, I think that's a lot, but, you know, stuff like that in good condition is getting incredibly hard to find, especially in Australia. So the price of all the vintage Star Wars stuff has been going through the roof lately.
Yeah, that is actually very, very cool. And and the funny thing is you pay 3.5 for this, and then in like 20 years for time, you can add a number 1 in front of that 3. So it's be worth a fortune. But no, good on them too. So a good buy for sure. All right.
Now, this is an interesting one because this is a Y-Wing pilot helmet. You see a lot of the X-Wing pilot helmets, but not so much of the Y-Wing. But when I first saw that, I actually thought that looked like a A-Wing pilot helmet from Return of the Jedi. What do you think about that one, Dags?
No, I wouldn't have. It's not Y-Wing because the Y-Wings were the X-Wing helmets. So
that's what I thought.
Up big time. Yeah.
That's what I thought. So that is an A-Wing pilot, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, because you got the dude who's in the A-Wing and he's going to fly into the starters, and then he dies and he's wearing one of those. So yeah.
So do you know what that proves? Wearing helmets in spaceships just do nothing.
It also means that we freaking are way too nerdier than we need to be. So there you go.
There you go. So this is a Y-Wing. It might go cheap because people who are looking for a Y-Wing helmet will find an A-Wing and not bid on it.
Yeah. So someone's balls up the description. Even the box doesn't say what it is. So hang on. What does it? Hang on. It does say Y-Wing on the box. So yes. Oh, hang on. It does too. Yeah. Screen lineage or something. I got the magnifying glass of truth here. Y-Wing replica helmet. So Prop Master, even they've got it wrong. What a bunch of turtleheads. So there you go. Oh, here we go. Moneybag Sullivan says we're both wrong. Okay, so well, I can tell you for a fact, or maybe in Jedi, they didn't have any Y-Wings in Jedi. So anyway, doesn't matter. And certainly in A New Hope, they weren't wearing these. So anyway, let's move on, shall we? Although, let's have a look. Hang on, I've lost where we are. I've got to go right back up here. So, all right. So Phil has said 4,000. Ange has said 3,500 and 1 cent. Spanker has said 3,500. Gavin has said $50. Where are we? Both wrong. 1,600 for Thomas. William has said 2,500. Connie's at 880. Grant is at 950. Colin is at 3,250. Jimmy said 1,300. Moneybag Sullivan is at 1,500. And the Vial is at 3,000. Yes, very, very cool. So it's just having a look at a couple of comments there. Y-Wing helmet from Jedi for sure. Were there Y-Wings in Jedi? I just do not remember them at all. It had A-Wings, B-Wings, and the X-Wings, of course. But anyway. Maybe they did change their helmets in the movie. Who knows? Violating the helmet is the Violet 3000. So there you go. Either way, there were 10 bids. It's all very good. Prop Masters helmet, yada, 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 yada. And it went for just under $3,000. There you go.
So there, I think the Vial gets that at 3,000.
And he gets $50 back. So there you go. I'll just have a quick look. Anything you want to say about this?
Like I said, for you, I was confused as to where exactly that was. If it is a Y-wing helmet, if they put it on the box, it must be in the archive somewhere as a Y-wing helmet. But I do think it is a really nice prop replica. Just a bit confused about the whole description.
And guess yeah, hang on. So yes, the Vial did get that at 3,000. There was a couple of $3,500. So there you go. Even Spankin said it's an A-wing helmet from Jedi, and I'm going to go with Spankin on this one. So let those two fight it out. So anyway, yay team. Let's move on.
I trust Spankin.
Yeah, I do too.
Okay. This is another amazing lot because you can't even see everything that's in there in that picture. This is not vintage classic Star Wars, but this is a huge Star Wars classics collection, which is the modern version of vintage stuff. Okay, try and work out what I just said there. But this is a huge lot of it that was sold on eBay. There's a lot of the figures. A lot of those figures are very desirable now. And then there's a lot of the vehicles that are incredibly hard to find, and everyone seems to be after these vehicles in the classic look boxes. So someone put it all together and put it on eBay. How much did they get?
Indeed. So there you go. All right. Anne just said $101. Moneybag Sullivan said he's going to bet us all that's an Y-wing helmet. You guys can fight it out. Someone find the proof, and away we go. So there you go. We're moving on. 5,500 from Colin. Grant has said 10,500. Where we Mr. Phil has said 7,500. There's a huge argument going on with all these people discussing whether it's an X-wing or a Y-wing or an A-wing helmet, and let them all figure it out. Let the nerds fight it out amongst themselves. Where were we? I've completely lost track of Rome. So Grant said 10,500. Phil said 7,500. Jimmy's at 2,500. Violating the helmet or the collection is the Violet 12,000. Russell said $5,040. Moneybag Sullivan is at 35,000. Gavin is at 60 grand. Thomas is at 2,000. Spankin is at 10. I'm going to catch converter. Rico said, yeah, if they went to cash converters, there's an easy $50 there. There you go. Connie said 13,000. I do apologize to everybody else who's just watching this on the periphery thinking, what the hell are we all talking about? Carol has finally joined us at 10,000 and William's at 5,000. So there you go. Very good stuff. Huge Star Wars collection. You've got to admit the photo alone is very, very impressive. So, yes, it could be very, very cool. Could be worth a lot of money. What do you reckon, kids? So it's just a huge Star Wars collection. That's all there was. Nothing else. No other details. And, of course, it went for a whopping 2,800. What do you reckon?
Now, this is an interesting one because it was bought at a buy it now price, which means the person who has sold it has set their own price, what they wanted for it, and someone has bought it within seconds of that auction going live because that was incredibly cheap. And if they had run that at even a 3-day auction, I reckon they would have got closer to $8,000 to $10,000 for it. So they are the auctions I love to find on eBay and buy, but I never ever see them. So that was a great looked lot of vintage classic Star Wars stuff. The figures were good. The vehicles are good. The Millennium Falcon alone in the center there goes for about $1,000. So very good lot if you found it and got it yourself.
So not only was he wrong about which helmet was which, it was a A-wing helmet, not a Y-wing helmet, but Moneybag Sullivan was completely way off with the price. So if he's good with his prices, easy with his helmets, he's got no hope.
Do you know what, though, Dad? Do you know what, Dad? Don't let him into your house because he'll eat all your food.
I'll tell you what, mate. I had nothing to eat the next day. And Glenn says, do you want some of this? He eats my chocolates, he eats my banana bread, he eats my freaking dinner. Unbelievable. He eats my ice creams and everything. It's just out of control. So there you go. There you go. Wow, Mr. Moneybag Sullivan. That's super cheap. Yeah, it's just a bit like you. Actually turns up right on dinner time. Scurvy bastard. All right, let's move on, shall we?
Now, here's our last one for the evening. This is an original Australian, so it's an Australian printed one sheet from Return of the Jedi. So this is an original poster that came out in the 80s. This isn't one of the reissues. It is an Australian printed version, which are quite hard to get and quite desirable. It does have a little bit of wear to it. How much would you expect to wave a finger at me?
Well, guess what? I've just found out it's not a movie poster. It's the video poster.
Yes,
because of the bot, and you know why I know that? Because I've actually got this one. So
yes.
There you go. CBS
So, yes.
Fox in the bottom left-hand corner.
Yeah.
So there you go.
So yeah, that actually probably makes it rarer than the movie poster.
Could be too. So there you go. Oh, cry me a river. I couldn't afford a river because I was out of food on the next day. So there you go. Unbelievable. All right, Mr. Phil has said $1,000. Ange, it's coming $2. Oh, Ange, you got no hope. Moneybag Sullivan, after he's eaten me out of house home, is 150. Thomas is at 2. Collins at 2,500. Connie's at 310. Mr. Spankin is at 250. Violating Return of the Jedi is the Vile at 500. Jimmy's at 350. What do people think? And I agree with you. This actually could be rarer than the movie poster because it was only for the video release. And I've actually got this, as I said. So there you go. Carol has said a 780. I don't know if I put William in there. William was at 800. I'll just chuck that in. So there you go. Very good. So it looks like it's framed, but it's not. It's actually sitting on the floor or something. So yeah, cry me an A-wing helmet. So there you go. I absolutely love it. So very, very cool. All right. So what do you reckon? This is what Star Wars Return of the Jedi Australian one-sheet movie poster of the 1980s. Yeah, because as I said, that's when it came out on video. So there you go. What's it? I'll swap you that poster for Dags' lunch on Saturday, Daniel. There you go. Good on you. All right, so there you go. Very, very cool. All right, so what do we reckon it went for? This is the video poster, probably rare as hen's teeth. I do actually have one of these in my collection, so it could be worth $1 million, $1,000 there for Grant, and it went for a whopping $1.
I tell you what, Dags, how's this for fair? I'll give you $5 for your one.
You give me $5 for mine. Unbelievable. How's that for $1? Why would you reckon that would be, dude?
It would be because it's just been missed. I mean, it isn't in the greatest condition, so it's not worth thousands, but it is, it is worth more than 99 cents, an original video library poster. They're unique and different because it's the Australian version as well. So as we always say, we look at the extremes on eBay. You can get ripped off, but you can also find some bargains.
Yeah, so Ange just chucked in $2. I don't know why, but and Thomas has chucked in the $2 as well. But I don't think Greg King did, our $2 King. I think he missed it on this one. But yeah, you're right, Connie. Isn't that bizarre? So yeah, when I first saw it, I thought it was the official movie poster as well. And I was surprised. I thought $1, that can't be right. But as it turned out, it was the video poster instead. And there would be very few of those floating around anymore, I would think. So how about that, Mr. Aaron? What do you reckon, old son?
There are a lot of poster collectors that look for foreign variants, Australian being foreign if you're overseas, and
you missed out. Yeah.
So yeah, that one would have gone for more, and someone would have got a bargain. I wouldn't be surprised if that gets listed properly internationally and goes for a whole lot more than that.
Yeah, totally agree, which is very, very groovy. So there you go. Here's a bit of Star Wars Return of the Jedi stuff, which is really, really cool, which, of course, it brings us on to our main topic of discussion, and we will run over time over this one, Kitty, so there's no way in the world we're going to get this finished before 10 o'clock. But so what are we continuing our discussion with tonight, Mr. Aaron?
We are continuing looking at Return of the Jedi, which we had to cut short last week because we ran over time. But you're here for the good half because we're looking at toys. So last week, if you're interested in erasers, puffy stickers, and all that peripheral stuff, the posters, we've already covered that. This week, we're looking at mainly the Kenner toys and a few of the other toys that were sort of in the toy shops at the time. And here we have a picture of toy shops at the time. Would not you love a time machine to go back and visit those toy shops and buy a couple of mint figures right off the shelf there?
Just based on what you can see right there, there would be tens of thousands of dollars worth, as in today's prices. If you could go and pick these items up, like these 5 items right here, the Jabba's Palace, bring them to today, the price tags you can put on, mint and box straight off the store shelves. That's completely insane, isn't it? So
it's crazy, but it's beautiful to see. So here we have some of the advertising for the toys from Return of the Jedi before the movie was launched. And what they would often do, you'd have like a couple of new toys and a couple of the prototypes, and then they'd often repackage the older years worth of toys with new Return of the Jedi boxes because that's the cheapest thing to do. Do you remember the first time you walked into a toy shop and saw Return of the Jedi toys? Do you?
No, it may have been Children's Palace. I can't remember it. Is it the Children's Palace or Maya, 6th floor, one of those two?
For me, it was Maya in Eastlands, and I went in, and we used to go in weekly, and up to that point, Empire Strikes Back had been out of the cinema for a couple of years. There was a Star Wars section that had a whole lot of Lobots and Bespin security guards. And then we come in one week and the whole aisle is replaced with Return of the Jedi stuff. And we just stood there gobsmacked. And my parents were pretty good. Usually we didn't get toys all the time, but they did say you can pick one toy each. And I remember the first Return of the Jedi figure that I bought, and it was a Gamorrean guard. Why did I buy that figure? Because it was the heaviest. So I thought I was getting the best value because there was more plastic in it. So that's really weird how a kid thinks. But I remember picking up Klaatu, and I remember picking up the Gamorrean guard and going, the Gamorrean guard, the plastic in that, oh, that's 2 figures right there. So that was the first Return of the Jedi figure I bought when they were in the shops originally.
Yeah, I'm thinking back upon it. Maya would have been the go for me. And you are right. You walk in there and just go, oh, my God. And it's just a complete mind. We can't use swearing on this show, but it's a mind F, if you will. So there you go. Especially when you're like, I was only 16 when this came out. So, yeah, it was just completely insane. But anyway, move on.
So here's some of the advertising that they used for Return of the Jedi from around the world. I've picked some from Australia, some from England, and from some from Europe. There's some, I think, German ones there as well. The interesting thing about this is down in the bottom corner, you've got the buy the troops and get the leader for free and keep the Rancor keeper free. These were English promos, and it's interesting at the time. I'm English, but I've lived in Australia since I was 6 months old. But I had English relatives that would send me comics and Star Wars stuff, and they sent comics that had these promos in. Now, the interesting thing in Australia, if you wanted free figures, you cut the proof of purchases off. But in England, you cut the name of the figure that was at the top of the card. So I doubled up and did all the Australian promos, and then I cut off the names from the cards as well and sent off for the Emperor as well. So it was kind of one of those global things before the internet where I was double dipping and getting 2 figures for the price. Well, they were free. So that was a pretty cool thing that I remember from the time doing. Did you ever send off for any of the figures?
Go on.
Did you ever send off for any of the figures for free or anything like that?
No, I didn't. I wasn't buying any at that point. I just couldn't afford it. Now, this comment is actually coming from Chad, who actually works with Aaron, right? And so Aaron saw this guard, there's in the Gamorrean guard, and finally saw a figure with realistic proportions. And I was waiting for him to say, oh, it reminded Aaron of a green version of himself. But he didn't put that in. Having said that, I just said that. So that's just not good at all. But bad, Daggy. No lunch for me on Saturday, so there you go. Very good.
So before we full on just dive into the Kenner universe, I think the other things we probably have to have a look at are the model kits. They were incredibly popular. They'd been out for Star Wars and Empire Strikes Back. They were repackaged in this fantastic silver box for Return of the Jedi. They updated the artwork. They updated some of the kits, and they introduced some of the new vehicles. So some of the new kits were the Shuttle Tidarian and the TIE Interceptor, which came out for Return of the Jedi. And they released a whole lot of model kits that were incredibly popular. In fact, I've read an article where model kits were actually sort of on the way out. The biggest selling ones were from the war, and the war was, of course, a while ago, and people still like Militaria, but a lot of kids growing up weren't getting into model kits. And Return of the Jedi, Star Wars, Empire Strikes Back gave the model industry a boost that it hadn't had for years and years, and probably kept them going for about an extra 20 years. And the interesting thing about there was what we call the wilderness years, when Return of the Jedi finished and there was not much merchandise. The model kits were available and sold really well through all that time, right through till Episode 1 came out and kickstarted the Star Wars craze again.
Yeah, it's I totally agree with you. And believe it or not, on a completely unrelated topic, Spankin has conceded. Apparently, it is actually a Y-wing helmet from Return of the Jedi. So that whole argument has finally been resolved. So yeah, good on you, kids. It's very funny. The mural painting that I showed last week, the AT Walker, was actually a model kit that I built and I actually drew an image of. So yeah, even I got it back into model kit building at this point, and some of my friends did as well. So they were very, very cool. There's no doubt about that at all.
And here's another bunch of models that were reissued and released for Return of the Jedi. And a couple of these I've had and made when I was a kid, and a couple of them I've collected from later. Some of the ones I've never had were the ones in the top right-hand corner there, which were like mirror kits, where they give you half a kit and you stick it to a mirror, and it makes like the full kit when you look at it through the mirror, which I think is a really interesting kind of idea. I can't recall ever making one of those or seeing one of those made before, but I looked them up and they were items that were available. And the one that used to do my head in, all the ships, none of them were to scale or anything, but you would get, I got the speeder bike kit, and you could not display it with the other ones because you had this huge scale speeder bike up to these little B wings and Y wings that were bigger than, like about as big as his kneecap kind of thing, which I used to find pretty funny at the time.
I remember when we first saw the ATST over here, and we looked at the laser beam, and we couldn't work out why there was a break in the laser beam. We thought, is it being fired behind his leg, this guy here? And it's actually because it's in two bits. So anyway, I thought I'd mention that. Moneybag Sullivan has said he will accept all apologies now. I gave you a free dinner last night, dude, so you can just blow it out your ass. So there you go. And this setup here where they did the three of them in the snap kits, that was actually really groovy, because then you could do your good guys and your bad guys all in one hit. But yeah, there was a lot of to choose from, and some of them were really, really groovy. So especially if you couldn't get them as toys. Yeah.
The other cool kit was the Jabba's Palace, which was sort of the whole environment. But we'll get looking at Jabba's Palace later. Now, it's really interesting when we look at the toys, because we could look at them in sort of release order or in different themes. But what I've decided to do is split it up like Kenna did and look at them in the different environments. Now, Return of the Jedi, a bit like Empire, actually was a fantastic movie to turn into a toy franchise, because you've almost got, as a toy designer, these three different sections in the movie where you go, okay, we can do a collection for this, we can do a collection for that, and we can do a collection for this last one. And if kids don't like one, they're going to like the other, and you're going to have people who want to get the lot. And Return of the Jedi was fantastic for toys because there was more creatures and more aliens and crazy environments. Empire Strikes Back was great, but a lot of the secondary characters were humanoid. So you have a lot of cloud car pilots and Bespin security guards. Here you have Jabba's Palace, where every single alien has been designed by artists to look totally different and totally alien. So the Kenner must have had a field day just picking and choosing what they were going to use for Return of the Jedi. Kenner divided them into three environments. This was from the planetary maps that were given away as catalogs for the end of the run at Power of the Force. But there's the Death Star environment, there's Tatooine, and there's Endor. So we're going to look at them kind of as they appeared in the movie, and we're going to look at the Jabba's Palace and Tatooine toys first.
Good stuff.
So Jabba's Palace is one of those things where it is incredible. As a kid, I remember my favorite parts of Star Wars were probably the cantina, just because there were so many crazy aliens. And then in Empire Strikes Back, I think it was the bounty hunters, because most of it was the bad guys were in military suits. And then you got these crazy bounty hunters, a walking alligator and the IG-88 and Boba Fett, and they were a bit colourful and different. Return of the Jedi, when it came out, it blew my mind. I saw Return of the Jedi through the cards first, the trading cards. And before I even knew what toys were going out, I was going, oh, I hope this blue elephant's a toy. I hope this giant slug is a toy. I hope the Rancor is a toy. And Kenner obliged and released all of them as toys, so I was pretty happy. Here are some of the figures from Jabba's Palace. Did you want to add something, Dags?
Yeah, two things. So there was a couple of points. So Rico is right. It is actually the forest moon of Endor, or the Sanctuary moon, not Endor. For the sake of the argument, a lot of people get them mixed up. So we're just gonna, if Aaron says Endor, we'll just deal with it. But yeah, it is actually the forest. It's actually a moon of Endor itself. But yeah, that's just being technical. And there was a question back here from and I've lost it, regarding Salacious Crumb, whether there was an action figure for him. Do you know the answer? Obviously, you know the answer to that one.
Yes. Salacious Crumb was a bonus figure that was given with Jabba the Hutt, so you can see that he's sitting on his throne there. Now, usually they put on sets action figures not included, which none of the full-size action figures were, but Salacious Crumb was included with the Jabba the Hutt set. Yeah.
All right. Cool. No worries. Good stuff. Very good.
So let's look at his magnificent Jabba the Hutt himself. Here is some of the concept art for Jabba the Hutt, and they settled on the one in the top center there, which is close but not exactly the same as the one that was made for the movie. I think what happened, George Lucas liked that one the best, and then the puppeteers said, this is how we're going to have to create it and make it look. And so it changed a bit between concept and actual realization. But you know what? I think the one in the movie looks better than the one that it was changed from in concept. I think Jabba the Hutt is one of those triumphs in movie making where you have got a puppet that is 100% believable, and you don't sit there and go, that's a puppet. You actually think that that is a creature. And say what you want about digital, I don't think they ever came close to recreating the original Jabba the Hutt with any of the digital attempts they've had since then.
Yeah, I totally agree. When you see Jabba and the Phantom Menace, it was like, oh, what a letdown. And the fact that it was actually a physical prop, effectively, was really fantastic. And worked really, really well.
Does the original Jabba prop exist, or did it totally disintegrate?
No, because they were using some kind of alcohol-based latex, the whole thing disintegrated probably a couple of decades ago. Only the eyes survive. So you can actually. I've been to a museum. Sorry, I've been to an exhibition where just they've got the eyes and nothing else. The whole lot is just disappeared. So yeah,
I do remember going up to Sydney for the Star Wars exhibition where they had the real Jabba the Hutt, and I took one look at it and go, "That's not Jabba. No. That's not Jabba the Hutt." So yeah,
it was kind of cool because. Sorry, go on. You got to say something?
No. I was just going to say,
because it was referenced in the first movie, and you think, and I wonder what he's going to look like. And of course, he appears in the third film, and it's like, okay, we've heard of this dude. What's he going to be? And when he turns out like this, it's like because he's so large and foreboding. It worked out really, really well. So, and even when, unfortunately, the special edition when they integrated him back in again, it didn't have the same impact for A New Hope. But anyway, not to worry. So. Yeah.
So you do wonder how he would have changed if they had. We can go to the next slide. It's still Jabba the Hutt. You do wonder how it would have changed because originally Jabba the Hutt was going to be a stop motion creature that George Lucas did put in over the top of the actor that was in A New Hope, and they couldn't find a way to do it. And you do kind of. I'm kind of grateful that didn't happen because it wouldn't have been the design we eventually got. Jabba the Hutt is incredibly popular among collectors because one thing that loose collectors like to do is create dioramas. And if there is any diorama in any movie that you'd want to recreate, it is Jabba the Hutt's court. His court is full of interesting creatures. The original line made enough creatures to populate Jabba the Hutt's court really well. It's funny when you think about it. We talked about some of the franchises that didn't do so well, and we're going to look at other ones. But, you know, there's more creatures from Jabba the Hutt's palace than there are main characters released for Tron and Dune and movies like that. So that really does go to show how popular and endearing these creatures were with children. Now, we're not going to critique the movies. A lot of people didn't think Return of the Jedi was as good as Empire Strikes Back. We're looking at it from a toy point of view. From a toy point of view, Return of the Jedi probably is the most toy-etic movie of the three, just because there are so many amazing characters that could be translating so well into the toy market. So not only did we have the Kenner figures there, they also made a Play-Doh Jabba the Hutt. I put that card from the Kenner set in the bottom right-hand corner. That is the first image I ever remember seeing of Jabba the Hutt when I opened up the Scanlan's cards back when I was in grade 4 and just being, oh my goodness, because you couldn't tell if it's like a serpent creature there or if it's just a head or what. So I remember seeing that. And then, of course, I didn't realize it was the same creature that was on the cover of the cards as well. So that's pretty amazing. Another interesting story talking about Scalacious Crumb, and I haven't got a picture of it, but people will remember. There is a picture of Scalacious Crumb in the Kenner cards, and he's sort of standing there and it's like a portrait of him. And me and my friends, I remember having an argument whether that was his beak or if he was a cyclops with a really big eye in the middle of his head, just because that was the first image we saw of him and we didn't know what kind of creature he was. So Return of the Jedi was well known in the playground through the cards and the book and the comics before the toys came out. So when they came out, kids were primed to buy this stuff.
So Colin asked what species is Jabba, and ironically, as Moneybag confirmed as well, he is actually a Hutt. So so it's an unusual title, Jabba the Hutt. It's like saying Aaron the Human, but that's just how it works. And I think a lot of the Hutts all had something, the Hutt. That was just their naming convention, Zero the Hutt and Gardula the Hutt and all sort of business. So
lots of people actually call me Jabba the Hutt. It's interesting because we have a big statue of Jabba the Hutt up above the counter, and people often come in and look my way and go, look at Jabba the Hutt, and I always go to them, well, that's really rude calling me that, isn't it?
Never to your face, dude. What can I say? There you go.
So here's one of those interesting toys, which is kind of, sort of, almost was in the movie, but they've just redone the droid factory. There was that classic scene where you see the power droid getting tortured and the medical droid. It looked like the 21B getting pulled apart and disintegrated in Jabba's dungeon. This was Jabba's dungeon, but what they've done is just take the classic Jawa droid factory that was released for Star Wars, and they've just whacked the figures out of it, slapped Return of the Jedi Jabba's dungeon, and they haven't even put droid parts in it, which I would have thought fantastic if, you know, they put droid parts so you could pull them apart and torture them. But it is kind of funny that droids can be tortured because they're artificial machines, and I think that's interesting because it works at a kid level where kids realize that this guy really means business, because droids, R2-D2 and C-3PO are very sympathetic characters, especially for children, and then when they react to seeing these droids getting ripped to pieces, it obviously affects the kids and thinks, oh, these characters are in trouble. You don't want to be working for Jabba the Hutt and drop chocolate down his front or something like that because you end up getting pulled to pieces. You didn't think that was good, Dags?
No, it didn't work for me. I thought, you know, why would you be doing that to a robot? And why would a droid, as you said, be feeling it? Like the power droid gets turned over by 88, you know, and it got the hot coals on the feet. And I go, that didn't work for me at all. I mean, I loved EV9D9's character. Even Gavin said about was scum. And I understand, if I'm not mistaken, the voice was actually from Richard Marquand, but that whole thing just was a bit wanky. But you know, I get the point of what they were trying to do. So I don't think it worked there.
And of course, like Empire Strikes Back, the mini rigs had sold incredibly well because they were a lower price point vehicle that were more within pocket money range. And I remember the mini rigs for Return of the Jedi being particularly good. The Desert Sow skiff looks like the Sow barge, but a one-person vehicle. And you could imagine that flitting around on Tatooine with Jabba's sort of guards on it. And also the AST-5, which was more of an imaginary one, later made an appearance in Rogue One in the background as an Imperial transport sort of one-man ship as well. So if you look out for it, it's been painted grey, so it's a bit different. But they did canonize some of these designs, which is interesting because the toy designers in the last movie in a trilogy would never in their wildest dreams have thought that they designed a toy and 30 years later the designs were going to be used in the new Star Wars universe.
Well, that became a bit of a common thing because, as you know, the troop transporter, I think, was from the first movie, which didn't appear in the movie at all. You had all the guys standing side by side, and that appeared in The Mandalorian. So, it is funny. They're rehashing old designs from toys from decades before. So, yeah, very, very cool. I do find it funny when you do that whole thing of like, oh, yeah, these were slightly off center from the screen, you know, like that little desert sail skiff, you know, it's like a sail barge cut down to one person only. And it was just off screen to the left. But don't let that worry you, kids. It's all good fun. It was definitely there.
It is interesting that Kenner toy designers designed all the stuff for Batman and Robin, and it didn't work at all. But in this case, it has worked, and it has worked its way back into the universe. And you got to put the stickers on all by yourself. And if you were like me, the little edges of the stickers still had a bit of print on them, so I would cut them off and even put extra highlights that weren't on the sticker sheet.
Yeah. But as we once pointed out for the Empire Strikes Back talk, these were designed for kids, especially on a limited budget, who couldn't afford the really big stuff. Speaking of big things.
So here you go. It's the Rancor. Oh no, the Rancor. That line always implied to me that underneath Jabba's palace, there was a whole menagerie of things, not just the Rancor, because C-3PO was a bit shocked that it was the Rancor. Obviously, one of the worst beasts that Luke could go up against. The earliest picture of the Rancor toy I could find was from a catalogue in the bottom left corner there that had the original Leia down in the Rancor pit with Luke and him defending Leia there. So that's interesting that if you had expected to see that, you didn't. In all the versions of the advertising and the packaging, it usually has a Gamorrean guard in its hand ready to get eaten, which was I thought was a really cool, was a very cool idea. And here's something that people don't talk about much. I think it's really interesting that they juxtaposed the difference between Gamorrean guards and Ewoks. When a Gamorrean guard gets killed, his friends stand around and laugh. When an Ewok gets killed, the whole audience cries because the Ewoks get upset about it. But that was another one of those scenes that I remember loving as a kid, where you see the Gamorrean guard's arm getting slurped into the Rancor's mouth like you suck in spaghetti, and the sound effects were fantastic as well. The Rancor is a fantastic toy. It could hold things up. It could hold a figure in each arm. It has a spine in its back that when you move it, the mouth opens and closes like a puppet. If you've been in our shop on the weekend when Rod is around, he does great impersonations using the Rancor as a ventriloquist dummy if we've got one in stock, which makes you laugh. There's the two different releases of the Rancor there. There's the standard one in the bigger box in the front center, and then there's Trilogo European one, which comes in a more oblong shaped box. They both have really nice picture designs on the box, and collectors really love the Rancor.
For people who've been watching the Bad Batch, the second season of the Bad Batch, there's a whole episode devoted around a Rancor that they're trying to capture and bring back to wherever they're going to bring back to. It's not this Rancor, okay? I think it's Jabba's put the hit out for it to try and get it retrieved, but it's not this one. So this one's apparently a male, I think. Anyway, so it's not meant to be the same one. I always found it funny that in the trading card there, this is the sequence where it's got the bone in the mouth. But if you didn't know that at the time, you're thinking, what the hell's got he's stuck in his teeth? So there you go. And the vial is mentioned about the Rancor could have been in the Geonosian arena in the Attack of the Clones. So yeah, take out one of the other creatures, maybe the Nexu, put a Rancor in there, and it would have been a completely different story. So yeah, but I agree with you. It was a great scene, and it worked really well. Even though some of the visual effects in that sequence, like some of the matting with Luke and the Rancor in the same scene, they look shit, it looked crap, and they didn't even fix it for the special edition. But anyway, not to worry.
And this is the other one, which, when you think about it, is a bit of an unusual choice for action figures. But this is the Rebo Band, which didn't really do much but play a musical number in the movie. But I think the designs and the look of them really are translate to toys really well. And like I said, when I first went through the cards before I'd seen the movie or read anything, I really wanted straight away for them to make the little blue elephant as an action figure, even though I didn't really know what they were. I saw the cards and it's like Max Rebo and Droopy McCall, and I just thought that was the coolest thing ever. And again, toy manufacturers did as well, because they're on the cover of coloring books, little hardback story books. They've got like Play-Doh sets of them. There's jigsaws of them. For something that's in a movie for just, a minute or two, and then in the background the rest of the time, it just shows how you can take something that has an interesting look and then spin out a whole lot of merchandise from it. And it doesn't feel like cynical. It feels like something that kids actually really wanted and really loved and enjoyed. And again, it is a shame with the special editions. I don't think the CGI versions are any near as good as the original puppets.
Yeah, I got to admit, Max Rebo, I thought, whose idea was it to say, yep, we need a blue elephant? It's just there. All he has to do is just be able to fly, and that would just be perfect. There's a question here from Gavin. Was there ever figures made of the remade Palace Band? I don't even know what the remade of the I think in the Power of the Jedi range, they did Rebo Band 2-packs, and what they did, there were 6 different figures, and each one was packaged, one of the classic figures and one of the new figures. And then down the track, they did also do a wave where they released the Weequays that were playing the big drums, and you got half the drum in one pack and half the drum in the other. So I am pretty sure you can recreate the entire Palace Band with what they've released now, and they are very popular sets. I love this one from Moneybag Sullivan. Lap Your Neck is still a better song than Jedi Rocks. I've actually sung Lap Your Neck live at a banquet a couple of times. That's how tragic my life is. So I could send it fuzzy, so I could chicky ears. Anyway, move on.
In English, that's the music was a pumping, the rhythm was a thumping.
Yeah, exactly right. If the skiff is a rockin', don't bother knocking. Exactly right.
Because when they were doing it live on set, they played it in English, and then later on the linguist changed it into Huttese and re-recorded it. So there's English version and the Huttese version. So between the two of us,
and if you're really good, you actually know the name of the singer as well. I mean, the real life singer. So there you go.
So I don't. Do you?
Of course I do. Annie Abergast. So there you go.
Yeah, there you go. Here's some of the other interesting exercise. Here's some of the other interesting releases for Jabba's Palace. Probably the hardest one of the hardest releases for Jabba's Palace to get is the one-man sand skimmer, but you can get the one that's on the card in the top left here that was released in Australia. The one on the other corner on the top right, which is the Tri-Logo version, came in a little box, which always makes it seem like a more expensive toy, I think, because a box compared to something slapped on the card always is it looks more expensive. I have never seen the Tri-Logo one in person in Australia, so that is a hard item to find. Also down the bottom there, we've looked at different variants of the way figures were sold, and for Return of the Jedi, there were 2 sets, 2 packs released, and they were 2 random figures put on a card and then sold as sets, and there was a couple that I found there that were just related to Jabba's Palace.
Very groovy.
Now here is, I think it's one of the coolest toys from the range, and unfortunately it's very hard to find, and this is the Tatooine Skiff. And the Tatooine Skiff came out during the Power of the Force, and for all intensive purposes in Australia, the sales of Star Wars had bottomed out and died by the time that this was released. So a lot of toy shops didn't order it, and the ones that did were mainly the clearance ones. And although it didn't hit a lot of shops, people who remember seeing it do remember seeing it in weird places like Baby Co, where they were marked down for $5.99 each, and they were there for years and didn't kind of sell, which is really disappointing because it is a very accurate portrayal of the vehicle from the movie. The colors are right, the actions are fantastic. On the downside, even when these were new, before the plastic had gone brittle, they were incredibly easy to break because they have lots of little moving parts and lots of spindly bits, and the levers actually work. So the lever will put the drawbridge out and then drop the drawbridge over, and the landing platforms will go up and down, which means that the more they're played with, the easier they are to break. So these things now in a box go upwards of about $1,500. When we opened the shop, we had one, I think it was $1,200, and that went straight away. And since then, they've gone up and up in value and been harder and harder to find. So it is interesting. You see in the bottom there, bottom right, that by the time the droids line was out, they were still using the skiff to promote the droids line. So it was right at the end of the Return of the Jedi line when the toys were kind of sadly on their way out.
You got to hope that in the Book of Boba Fett, a skiff makes an appearance somewhere. I reckon fans would go off their nut if they saw one. You know, considering that Fett's now in Jabba's Palace, you'd have to think in his garage somewhere he's got a skiff parked there, because that would be just very, very cool.
Yes. And we move away from Tatooine onto the Sanctuary Moon, and this is the collection that was released for the Forest Moon of Endor. So we have here, I've highlighted the Ewoks, and now the Ewoks again were one of those things that a lot of kids loved and a lot of adults didn't love as much, although I as a kid have no problem, and because I've grown up with them, I have no problem as an adult. Do you remember having a reaction to them in the movies when you saw it, Dags?
Oh, yeah, when I first saw them, absolutely. It worked for me. I had no problem with it at all. And as I mentioned last week, when the 2 Ewoks get blown up and one lives and the other one doesn't, you know, it's a very, very sad moment. Oh, yeah, a massive tear-jerking moment. But after that, sort of moved on, I guess, and there was all this talk about how they were mainly for a marketing and merchandising perspective, and you know, to sell more toys because they had the cutesy factor and all the rest of it. And you could probably argue that and say, well, that's exactly right, because they were deliberately designed to be that way, even though ironically they're actually quite vicious. I mean, they were going to eat or cook Han Solo while he was still alive, for crying out loud. And if you ever saw Forces of Destiny, they're even roasting stormtroopers still in their armor. So they're actually quite nasty. So there's a bit of a darker side to Ewoks than most people realize.
Would you have preferred if they'd used George Lucas' original ideas and been Wookiees?
It probably would have made a bit more sense from a narrative point of view, because they're a bit more aggressive. And as we saw in Revenge of the Sith, they make it more of a physically imposing army. But I agreed with his perspective. You can't have a really, really sophisticated character like Chewbacca and have all these Wookiees are like living out in out in the sticks, so to speak. So I can understand why they did it. But I mean, the Ewok thing worked. A lot of people would say, yeah, it's a bit wanky and a bit stupid and a bit hard to swallow, hard to believe. But, you know, what do you do? Yeah. So there you go.
So, again, Kenner got a lot of mileage out of Endor, and you've got some of the pre-production art there of the speeder bike and some of the Kenner cards again of the Ewoks. And then the Ewoks are one of probably the best represented races in Star Wars, where there's about 7 or 8 different versions of them released over a lot of the years. The baby Ewok, the Wokling, even got a card for itself. Stormtroopers roasting over an open fire.
That's right. That was in the Forces of Destiny. Yeah, it takes place after the end of Jedi. So they're a bit nasty, but that's good.
Yeah. And so here are some of the accessories that came with the Ewok side of the toys. And I think they were really good. I remember I was still young enough when these came out to play with toys. So an Ewok catapult was fantastic because it would work and knock over other figures. And if you aimed it really right, you could explode a speeder bike with one. And the Ewok glider was another really cool thing. And one of the things that worked really well with Ewoks in that they could sell the same figure over and over again. All you had to do was take the hood off one of them, like you can see in that picture there, and you've got a different Ewok. Or me and my brother, when we were getting them secondhand to build our armies, we'd take like one of the hoods off of one and put it on a different one. And you could have quite a variety of Ewoks built up into a big Ewok army or an Ewok village. I think the Ewok toys are really cool because they grab kids' imaginations. And when people say, oh, we don't like the Ewoks in the movies just because maybe they're a bit of a childish idea, they work the opposite way with toys because they're more of a whimsical, childish idea. Kids really love them. And I think that means kids who grew up playing with them now love Ewoks as adults as well. So Ewok toys are always sort of very collectible.
And someone pointed out to me, and I didn't even realize this, despite how primitive they are, they still discovered flight because they had the kite thing. And I thought, I never even thought of that before. So, Russell made a point here regarding the Ewoks being they could have been Bogan Wookiees. Yes, true. But I guess casting Wookiees would have been a lot harder than casting actors for the Ewoks. So, in the end, that kind of made sense as well. But, the glider, sorry. But, the fact that the Ewoks actually had flight was they're more sophisticated than we realized. Yeah, very cool.
Yeah. And, of course, one of the biggest play sets they ever released was the Ewok Village, which, again, was basically 3 trees in a triangle and then a representation of the Ewok Village with Ewok homes and an Ewok fire pit. And you have the makeshift throne that C-3PO is paraded around on. You have a big boulder, I guess, for either counterbalancing the Ewok lift or clobbering stormtroopers. And there was a crude elevator there. And you've got safety rails, which is interesting because the Empire never put safety rails on anything, but even the Ewoks managed to put safety rails on the Ewok village so you didn't have people falling down mine shaft kind of things. So
they probably did that for kids. So it gets the safety thing in their head straight away. 2 things. Thomas has made a mention about the Ewoks being vicious, cunning cannibals that had a sophisticated society. You do wonder how the story would have played out had, if they weren't welcomed into the tribe. Nah, sorry, we've heard your story from C-3PO. You guys can all just bugger off. And that would have been a completely different twist to the story. And I agree with Gavin on this one. They're great tailors as well. Yeah, fancy that. They've never seen a human being before. Leia turns up and they've got a dress for her. How good's that? It's like 5 times bigger than them.
It's crazy, isn't it? But that's the type of thing I guess you don't think about too much when you're a kid. We talked about this before as well a couple of weeks ago, but the Ewok village was actually turned into Sherwood Forest, and all they did was whack some leaves on the top of it, and it became a fantastic Robin Hood playset. Yep, that's just what we were talking about, Russell. And then one of my favourite scenes from Return of the Jedi was, of course, when the giant Ewok battering ram battle wagon rolled out of the forest and bashed down the Imperial bunker, which never ever happened. But, it really does show the imagination where they were going, how can we squeeze more toys out of this? Now, this truly is one of those, what was just off screen? Do you think they were just off screen waiting to roll in and fight the Empire?
Well, I always thought it was funny. You got the sequence where you got all the logs that have been all tied up on a thing that, they pull the thing and the logs will roll down. They go, how'd they get those logs up there?
Yeah, can you imagine? Like
put them on the back of the battering ram.
The Imperials must have known that was happening. The Imperials like, why are the natives putting giant logs in these trees on ropes? Oh, they're just logs. It doesn't matter. Just leave them alone kind of thing. So it is interesting.
I like this one from Moneybag Sullivan. Yeah, the dress they gave to Leia was from their last meal. It's still warm. Oh, you've warmed it up for me. It's like, no, it's actually from the body heat of the previous person. So,
Yes.
absolutely love it. So I thought it was very, very funny. There was something else I was going to say. I forgot what it was. So we'll just move on and I'll get my screen back. There we go.
No problem. And this, although small, I think is one of the greatest toys that was ever released for the Star Wars movies, and that was the speeder bike. And the speeder bike was fantastic because it was very screen accurate. It fitted a figure in and it looked like it should in the movie. So all these other toys like the Millennium Falcon are great, but they're nowhere near scale as to what they should be. And also it had one of the most fantastic battle actions where you push the little backpack that's sitting on the back of the bike and it does explode and throw the trooper off. So that was great play value. And not only could you put the Biker Scout on there, you could put the Leia and you could put Luke from Endor, and that was endless hours of playing fun with those. And I do remember going and seeing some of the larger toy shops that had displays, and you had the speeder bike suspended on fishing wire, sort of going round and round, chasing Leia and Luke on speeder bikes as well, which as a kid, you see anything that's like not stationary and moving in a window, that's just the greatest thing ever when you see that toy shops have done stuff like that.
I agree with Joe. It was a fantastic toy. And the fact that it sat on the legs, it actually really worked for it.
Yes.
And it was such an ingenious moment in the movie as well. It was like, really, that was cutting edge. And seeing it at the cinema for the first time, I was like, oh, that is awesome. It's like the trench run from A New Hope,
Yes.
but now it's just been ramped up by a couple 100%. And yeah, absolutely loved it. So,
well, the crazy
cool. There was a comment here about, sorry, Russell said that he couldn't see well out of the helmets. Funnily enough, in the Biker Scout helmets, you can see really well. They have excellent vision, funnily enough. So, yeah, it was really, really cool. Sorry, man.
The crazy thing about that toy is the way the legs are attached to the exhaust port covers. So when they sit down and take off, the exhaust port flaps go up and down on them as well. And that is something they did not have to do in the toy, but it's just that little bit of extra detail that kids love and appreciate, and also means that collectors 30 years later are always missing one exhaust port because they fall off. So it makes it rare and collectible to get a complete one. But that is one of my favorite toys released for the whole Star Wars trilogy.
Yeah, that's the reason why they do fly around in circles. So yeah, very, very grippy.
Yeah. And this goes again to sort of just off screen. The Empire had the speeder bikes, but the Rebels had these huge cumbersome Endor Forest Rangers. And I don't know if these will ever be introduced back into anything. You could maybe have them in a computer game or the Lego versions or something like that. But this really was someone just piss farting around and going, oh, is this a Rebel or is this an Imperial? Or, oh, I don't know. We'll call it an Imperial or a Rebel. And you know, out they come. And again, there's the top box, which was the normal one that was released locally, and the bottom one, which is in a larger box, is the tri-logo version, which is really hard to find. And we've got a couple of the good guys there. Some of the rebels. You've got Admiral Akbar, and you've got General Maydean, and of course the Endor Rebel Commander Trooper that is sort of, I guess, the stormtrooper of the rebellion.
Actually, it's kind of funny. You look at that Rebel Trooper dude down here. It's just an extra, right? And you do wonder who that person was, where they look at themselves going, oh, my God, I'm actually an action figure. How good am I? It's like, yeah, I'm just a random background person. I've got no dialogue. I've just been paid to turn up for the day, and now I'm an action figure. What do you reckon?
I think I was talking to someone, and we were discussing that, and just about everyone who was a featured extra has been tracked down, and they know who everyone is, except for Wilro Hood, the ice cream man.
But then they're not classed as featured extras. They're just extras. A featured extra is someone who gets a relative close-up, even though they've got no dialogue. If they're just filling in the space, right, yes, they're just extras. They're not featured. Well, and they just happen to be on screen. So, yeah.
Well, they're featured on that card.
Yeah, well, they are now. Absolutely. So, yeah, so some random person they've picked out of the crowd and go, oh, there we go. I'll make an action figure out of this dude. So,
because when they took that picture, they wouldn't have known it was going to be used for an action figure. Like Kenner would have gone, okay, that's a figure. We'll take that photo and use it. And so when that came out, maybe the person didn't even realize it was them, because, you know, they're all dressed the same. They're all but do you know what that means? If that person does know, they have a retirement fund going to conventions for years and years, signing that picture, you know.
That's exactly right. Where's his royalty? Yeah, and you can always tell featured extras these days because they end up in the visual dictionaries and all that other business. And I like the idea, I didn't like it at the time, that with Jabba's palace, they made action figures of all these aliens that you couldn't even see. One's buried behind other ones, some stuck in walls, and you go, and they just get these blurry photographs of these things. They go, where the hell was that? And they made an action figure out of it, the bastards. So yeah,
talking about featured extras. Did you ever remember the Smith and Jones clip where they're talking about they were extras as stormtroopers on Return of the Jedi? And one of them goes, "How would you even know it's you?" And he goes, "Because I was the stormtrooper doing this." And they go, "I didn't see any stormtrooper doing that." And he goes, "Yeah, I was cut out of the movie because I started doing this."
Absolutely love it. Here's a bit of an in-joke. Gavin has said, yeah, you need to make a figure of the pink shorts guy. That was the sound guy. They actually cosplaying the sound guy from A New Hope. He just wears pink shorts because he's on he's in Tunisia and he's as hot as hell. And they made it, he became a cult hero. So
yeah.
Anyway, more stories we could tell.
Here we go. Yeah, we've got to get through this, haven't we? I shouldn't do all these segues. So we have the Scout Walker, which is the two-legged AT-ST, which is another fantastic toy, and it had one of the features that the AT-AT didn't have, and it had moving legs, which meant you could stomp on the other figures, which is always a great thing when you're a kid and you have a toy that does stuff. And I know when we used to play Star Wars, if you got hold of the Chicken Walker, you would just massacre all the Ewoks and walk across, and I'd have my brother in tears because I would be, "I've won, all your figures are dead, nothing touches the AT-ST," kind of thing. Again, they had some of those sort of just off-screen vehicles. They had the Imperial Sniper, which is almost like a metal version of a hang glider where you'd get the stormtroopers going around just picking off Ewoks, which sadly wasn't in the movie. Down the bottom there is the interesting thing about the Endor Forest Ranger. In the Trilogo version, not only did you get the vehicle, you got 4 figures. So you got 2 Ewoks and 2 stormtroopers to go with it. And they were regular carded figures, and they folded them in half and put them in the box. So most of the time you would absolutely hate to have a carded figure like that, but if you were trying to track down a complete Endor Forest Ranger, you actually want them folded in half because that's how they originally came.
I agree with Gavin. The AT-ST was actually very, very popular and very, very enjoyable. And funnily enough, we've actually sold a couple of them in your store, which is very, very groovy. And they stand up really well too, which is
yeah, they
cool.
do. This was one of my favorite ships, and it was because it is probably from one of the greatest special effects sequences ever filmed for a science fiction movie, and that is the scene where, looking from the Millennium Falcon cockpit, what seems like an insurmountable barrage of TIE fighters just fly directly at the Falcon, shooting at it when they come out of hyperspace. And from that part of the movie right to the end, it is a total roller coaster with special effects and all the different elements coming together and playing off perfectly. I can still watch that effect and marvel at the special effects creators that actually spent the time doing that. I don't know if you know, there is a mistake. They actually did it in the wrong order. So smaller ones beneath some of the bigger ones, but they left it in because you couldn't see it when the sequence played through.
Well, I'm going to ruin the magic for you. In the background, when the ships are coming towards the camera, they don't come from the distance. They actually just appear on screen, just back here. So there's black, and then boof, there they are. And it's like, once you've seen it, you can't unsee it. But I agree with you. The TIE Interceptor was a very, very cool piece of work, and a lot of people loved it. So, yeah, totally agree with you, man.
And just by putting those sort of triangular spikes at the front of the ship, it changes it and does make it look faster, even though it's in space, so it shouldn't. Interestingly, here I'm highlighting these toys. These are the glass light ones from Brazil, and there weren't any Star Wars figures produced there. They were imported up into this point, and then when Return of the Jedi came out in Brazil, they started making their own figures, and so they reissued some of the old ships with different colors and different artwork and different stickers on them. They've obviously got style stripes on the TIE fighters, so those ones obviously go a lot faster because they've got the detail on them. These are incredibly hard to find and incredibly popular with collectors, and I do really like the look of the boxes where, rather than the pictures of the toy, they've gone with artwork, and it's really nice sort of vintage artwork that they've got on that Imperial TIE fighter there.
Yeah, totally agree with you. Gavin's asked about the runners in the space scenes. I can tell you where they are in The Empire Strikes Back. I won't tell you now. It'll take too long to explain it. I'll have to send through your picture or something. But yes, you can clearly tell there's a shoe in space. But yeah, I've never seen these before. These look particularly groupy. So yeah, very, very good.
And here are, of course, when they released some of the vehicles, they had to go back and release some of the figures. So even though they were Power of the Force and right at the end of the line, they released all the original well, not all of them, but a good range of the original. And they are quite major variants. So people who track down variants, look for them. It's interesting that the C-3PO is more of a bronzy, dull color than the chrome version that we got. I've highlighted the back of him there just under the Rip It Off the Card logo. And the R2-D2, they reversed the color of his eye, so it's red instead of blue, which is interesting as well. So those are quite hard figures to get, and a lot of variant collectors don't have them in their collection because they just don't turn up for sale.
Very good. Oh, it's a Y-wing fighter. Funny that.
Well, here's the interesting thing. It's hard to believe, but the Y-wing was not released as a vehicle, as a toy, up until Return of the Jedi. So even though they were major ships in Star Wars, there is no Star Wars release and there is no Empire Strikes Back release, and they first got their release for Return of the Jedi and confused everyone by having weird pilots with strange helmets. And I'm going to say I can't remember the scenes from Return of the Jedi with the Y-wings in, so that's pretty interesting. Now the Y-wing is another one of those fantastic toys where they were very accurate to the screen used designs and the blueprints for the actual models. We've got the Ralph McQuarrie early concept version of the Y-wing there, which is quite different actually to what we ended up with in Star Wars. But the Y-wing is another one of those toys that is very hard to get in good condition because it has a bomb that's always lost. It has struts that keep the Y shape engines in position, and they are always missing or bent. And then the rotating turret on the top, if a kid decides to turn it themselves, it just breaks all the cogs, so the electronics break straight away. Also, it has two guns at the front that if you drop, they just snap off. So it is a very hard vehicle to get in mint condition if it's been played with.
Yes, definitely. But it's a very cool design. There's no denying that at all.
It is. And talking about cool designs, this is one of my favorite ships from Return of the Jedi, just because of the design and sort of the zero-G gravity, where no matter what way you position the ship, the pilot is always upright and sort of horizontal or on the horizon to wherever you have it, which I think you mentioned last week doesn't really matter if you're in space at all, does it? So
no,
maybe
completely irrelevant.
Maybe it's because they are designed for in atmosphere fighting as well as in space or something like that. But they are very, very cool ships, and they're a great toy. I just don't know why they're really called B-wings.
Yeah, well, it's very funny because a lot of the ships are all named after letters. So a Y-wing, as we just saw, is shaped like a letter Y, and an A-wing is shaped like a letter A, and an X-wing looks like an X, and these are called B-wings, and they look nothing like the letter B, but they actually stand for the word blade because it looks like a knife, so which is kind of groovy. And there's an episode in Rebels, I think it's Rebels, where you see the prototypes of these first being developed. So, which is kind of a nice little story arc. But
I do think I remember that as well from the old X-wing video game, where one of the updates was B-wing, and they did mention Blade in that as well. So there you go. It was one of those little facts that was floating.
I thought you were joking. Give me a chance to sort of show off my fantastic knowledge.
I was giving me a chance to show off my ignorance.
Oh, yeah. Unfortunately, all the B-wing scenes got cut out of Jedi, which is a real pity, which is what this big shot is up here. It's actually a deleted scene from the movie. But anyway, not to worry.
And another one of the finest ships, which we looked at in our eBay section, was the Imperial Shuttle. Now, there were kind of two versions of it released. One where it really wasn't the shuttle. It was the ISP-6, which was basically the shuttle that kids could afford. And then there was the actual Imperial Shuttle that no one could afford. Now, the Imperial Shuttle is a fantastically designed ship and looks great, but it actually isn't a great toy to play with because the wings are so big and unwieldy. You can't really do much with it. When the wings are down in their down position, it can't land, and you can only really carry it around. The cockpit and the back of it don't have a lot of room in, so you can't really fit a lot of figures in it. So it looks fantastic and it's a great design, but it's too heavy and big for kids to really play with. And the thing with them, most of them, if you've ever played with them, break instantly because there's a little trigger that lowers the wings. And if you push the wings down without pulling the trigger, it breaks the mechanism. And if you release the trigger and the wings drop down too fast, it also breaks the mechanism. So a lot of these toys in mint condition now, you have to open them up and fix the mechanism that opens and closes the wings. If I had one, I wouldn't be playing with the wings at all anymore, which is unfortunate because they are toys. The ISP-6 was one of the most popular of the mini rigs because a lot of kids that wanted the Imperial shuttle had to settle with the mini version of it, and that was pretty cool too. They came with the Imperial Guards on the packaging of both of them, and the Imperial Guards were always one of those popular figures that disappeared really fast, even though they really did very little in the movie.
Yeah, very, very little actually. So it's a comment here from Gavin about making the mechanics for the shuttles took ages. For you don't realize it because they're actual physical models, that when the undercarriage goes down, the wings fold up and the guns have to fold up all at once. And it's just like, it's a marvel of engineering that they're able to do it, but they did it. So, and I agree with the Bile saying, yeah, they were absolutely fantastic looking ships. They did an awesome job with the shuttles. And as we said once before, the Tidarium is the one that they obviously steal for Endor, or the Forest Moon of Endor. And the Grey Nose is the Emperor's one. So that's the subtle difference between them. So yeah, very cool.
And as we come to the end of Return of the Jedi figures, I have to take a look again at the Power of the Force, which was really the beginning of the end. And this was quite sad because at the end of the Star Wars line, they released the last few Jedi figures, but they also went back and released some of the fan favorite figures that hadn't been released before. So you get the Luke in Stormtrooper from Star Wars, and you get the Imperial Gunner, which I guess was in Return of the Jedi, but was also in Star Wars. And the interesting thing about these figures, they thought that they would relaunch the line by adding collector coins, because all kids love collecting coins. It really did nothing one way or the other, except give you a cool little coin to collect. And the sad thing about this, I do remember when they came out that the Star Wars section had been reduced to maybe 16 figures in a little tiny corner of the shop. And as a massive collector, I was quite sad, not because these figures were coming out, but even as a young boy, I realized, do you know what? Star Wars figures aren't going to be around much longer, and there's no new movie on the horizon. So this could be the end. And as a collector, that actually made me quite sad because I didn't think there was going to be another Star Wars movie, and I thought that was it. How little I knew. So two of the most expensive figures, if we go to the next slide, are two of the last ones released. And they are, of course, Anakin Skywalker with the coin. It has to be the Australian carded with the coin because it was a mail-away figure overseas. And then Yak Face, which was the last classic Star Wars figure released. So that marks like a bit of history that came out in about 1985, and there wasn't another Star Wars figure released by Kenner for another 10 years till they relaunched the line with the new figures in about 95. Do you remember much about Power of the Force, Dags?
No, I mean I saw it because this was in what year? These were in the 80s still.
Yeah, this was about 86.
Yeah, no, I'd sort of like I might have seen them around the traps, but I was sort of way past it by that point. So no, but I did hear all the stories about Yak Face, and there's all these horror stories of people saying, oh, they were in show bags in the Royal Melbourne Show, and people just threw them out because nobody liked it and nobody knew who the character was and all that. And yeah, there's a lot.
Well, the thing is, Yak Face and Anakin aren't the hardest Star Wars figures to find. If you look at the bottom of that slide, there were three other figures released on Power of the Force cards. There was the AT-AT driver, there was Nikto, and the Gamorrean Guard, and they are much harder to find than Yak Face. Now, it's because they were released on very, very limited runs in the end of the line to sort of fill out the boxes, I guess. They did relaunch some of the figures with Power of the Force coins. Coins were made for all of the figures. In Australia, I do remember going into some shops and they had a box just of the coins behind the counter, and if you bought a figure, you could choose a coin. I only remember that once or twice, and I think most of those, no one picked the coins up and they got either sold cheap or thrown out. But I think I've only ever owned the Gamorrean Guard years and years ago, and at the time I didn't think it was anything very special. It was just a Gamorrean Guard on a Power of the Force card, and maybe sold it 20 years ago, and never had any of those three ever again.
Gavin asked, where is Yoda? Probably just not included in the photograph, so don't stress over it. And I found it funny that they actually went and made a point of making this dude over here is just this background extra guy once again. Now, he's a featured extra, right? This dude here, the Imperial dignitary, him and there's those other guys. The other guy lucked out pretty badly, at least in this series. So I thought it was interesting they made a figure of him. So what do you reckon there, Mr.
I did think the Power of the Force figures were fantastic. You know, you can see the evolution of Star Wars figures where the original 12 from the 70s were good figures, but by the time they got to the Power of the Force at Return of the Jedi, they had a lot more detail in them and they were more ambitious on what they were doing and the paint jobs and everything. So a Man, one of the last figures, is one of the most interesting figures they ever made.
Very cool. Actually, some nerds back in the day thought this was Darth Plagueis, this dude here. So when all that speculation was going about. So, but yeah, I mean, all the coins. I mean, is there a bit of value in having all the coins in like this sort of display?
So some of the coins go for thousands of dollars each now. The coins that everyone is after, of course, the coins that didn't come with the figures, because the ones that came with the figures, you know, if they were released with the figures in a range of like in an assortment, then there are tens of thousands of them out there. But the mail away ones that you had to send off for because the figures were there and you had a premium to get them, they're the ones that everyone are after. And whenever a collection of them come up, they usually sell individually, and some of the coins are so desirable they go for thousands of dollars. And of course, like a lot of these things, the figures that no one wanted are the coins that are the hardest to get. Because no one, if you had a choice, little Dags, would you send off for Luke Jedi Knight or the twin pod cloud car pilot coin?
Yeah, I totally agree with you. Yeah, you're right.
So some of those are impossible to find.
Totally agree. We're about to wrap this up. Thomas has said it was a lot of fun. And I've got to say g'day to our number one American fan, Floyd in America, who's joining us. It's like 3 a.m, actually probably 4 a.m. over there for him. So good on you. Now, there's a lot more we could discuss regarding Return of the Jedi, and we've had to sort of rush it a little bit through because we have run over time. But you can ask yourself, fans out there, what else would you be talking about if you were talking about Star Wars in the 1980s? We've had New Hope, and you got The Empire Strikes Back, Return of the Jedi. Surely that's the end of it. Absolutely not, because there's this.
Oh, yes. But wait, there's more. So next year, when we come back for Series 2 of Rip It Off the Card, we will still be delving into Star Wars regularly. And one of the things that we will be looking at sooner rather than later are the 2 Ewok TV specials / movies and the Ewoks and Droid cartoons, which, although weren't as popular as Star Wars, have some amazing collectibles with amazing imagery. And I'm sure a lot of people remember growing up with those movies and cartoons and have a soft spot for them, even though they weren't as good as maybe the main movies from the trilogy.
And as it turned out, one of those series has the rarest Star Wars action figure of them all. All right, it was only produced in one country, and people didn't even know it even existed until like a dozen years after the fact. So, and believe it or not, he's like butt ugly too, which doesn't help. It wasn't like Princess Leia and a slave girl bikini. That was some ugly puppy. It's my go-to cosplay. Absolutely unbelievable. So there you go. Well done. All right. So we have run over to. We certainly do appreciate people sort of sticking around. Is there any final words that you want to sign off with, Mr. Aaron, before we finish for the evening?
Well, I have to say this show is called Rip It Off the Card, and Return of the Jedi was one of the movies that made me an opener of toys, because every single one of those, when it was released, when it was out, I did not hesitate but rip it off the card and play with it to my heart's content.
Very good. Now, next week, we're going to be, it's our special episode that we haven't even decided what it is yet. Remember, we had last week, everybody voting on all these different things, and no one voted on the same thing twice. So so as of that point, we still don't know what we're doing next week, but we've only got 2 episodes less before the end of the year. So make sure you join us for that. So any final words before we finish, Mr. Aaron?
No, thank you, friends, for staying with us for this monster-sized show and listening to me talk about Star Wars for an hour and a half.
Good stuff. In the interim, make sure you keep all your Return of the Jedi collectibles a mint inbox.
Or rip them off the card.
Okay. See you guys. Take care.
See you guys. Good night.
On a far distant world of enchanting beauty, a family of lost travelers find shelter and friendship among the Ewoks, peaceful guardians of the forest. But the peace is shattered. An evil storm sweeps the planet Endor, threatening the Ewoks' very existence.
Run fast, run!
And a courageous Earth child is left orphaned. hunted by the cruel armies of an insatiable warlord.
All I want is the power.
Don't be foolish. Do what he says.
It's a breathtaking adventure that soars to extremes of heroism and treachery.
There's no escape for you, my little one.
But there is hope. A shipwrecked adventurer and his speedy sidekick join forces with the Ewoks. Their mission? Penetrate a fortress of death and rescue their friend. It's a desperate scheme that unleashes the rage of a demented tyrant. From the creator of Star Wars comes a dazzling adventure, a timeless fable of courage and conflict, of bravery, innocence, and unspeakable evil, featuring Wilford Brimley and the visual mastery of George Lucas. Take a journey to the far reaches of your imagination. Ewoks, the battle for Endor. Coming to your family from MGM UA Home Video.
The visual mastery of George Lucas.
I love it. For those who didn't pick up on it and those who are still sticking around, the planet you saw in the sky, that's actually Endor, the actual planet. So there you go. How good is that?
Yeah. ILM did a great job on a TV budget, I think.
Yeah, absolutely right. So, and I think it got released as a movie cinematic release here, but it wasn't in the US. So I think that was a bit of a funny thing. So I love it. This is awesome. Anyway, guys, we're going to buzz off for the second time. We might have another trailer for you. You never know. So, all right, see you next week. All right, take care.
Have a good night, guys. See you.
Okay.